Happy first birthday to Luke Sharkey in Quigley's Point. Enjoy your day. And from your fan club in Moville, that's Ella, Sarah, Eva and Emily Doherty, wishing you all well there. Happy birthday. And happy fourth birthday to Lila McDade from Bomini. And it comes in for Auntie Mandy. And I might have one more just to be sure.
One here.
Oh God, they're good today. Lots of birthdays today, which is great. And a request before the news, this is bang on time then. Sarah Funston, 6 today. Happy birthday, lots of love from Granny and Grandad. And for Danielle Gilday and Letterkenny, her birthday is tomorrow. She's going to be the big 2, and it comes in from all the Boland and Gilday cousins.
Lee, have a great weekend.
You too, Greg.
Thanks for everything throughout the course of the week. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show, our Friday panel about to join us. But first, let's get a news update from Aaron Ryan.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. There's calls for an urgent plan to be put in place for the erection of modular homes in Donegal. Minister Catherine Martin previously suggested that up to 7,000 modular homes are to be built in the country. Councillor Albert Doherty says there appears to be no evidence of such plan. He says what this means for Donegal needs to be made clear.
That phase 1 of the modular homes plan would deliver 2,000 beds, and she continued that the local authority through their vacant homes would deliver 1,000 beds, and lastly she said that the Department of Housing with their refurbishment grant would deliver 3,000 beds. Well, that's close to 7,000 beds, and I want to know where is Donegal in this plan, and most of all, phase 1 modular homes, where in Donegal, when in Donegal, and who for in Donegal.
The Justice Minister says there needs to be more enforcement of rules around dangerous dog breeds. It comes after a coroner warned young children to be extremely vigilant with their pets. The coroner, who was presiding over the inquest into the death of 3-month-old Mia O'Connell from County Waterford, died after suffering injuries in an attack by the family dog. Justice Minister Simon Harris says tougher laws around dog ownership are being worked on. Motorists are being warned of potentially dangerous driving conditions again this morning. Met Éireann's nationwide status yellow ice warning is in place until midday. It's urging people commuting to be mindful of icy stretches on roads and footpaths. Alan O'Reilly from Carlow Weather says temperatures will increase over the weekend.
Now, there's no way the DUP are going to go into an executive having not...
Inflation pushes up building costs, so it's important to review your home insurance cover to make sure you have the right cover for your needs. Underinsurance happens where there's a difference between the value of your cover and the cost of repairing damage or replacing contents. It's a risk you can avoid. Review your home insurance policy regularly. For more, visit understandinginsurance.ie/underinsurance. Brought to you by Insurance Ireland.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning. You're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show this Friday the 20th of January 2023. It's 3 minutes past 9. Apologies to Emma there. I just pressed every single button in front of me. But she'll be back with news in full uninterrupted, I hope, at 10 o'clock again. My apologies. Okay, get involved in the conversation. Well, firstly, what you can do is you can open up your smart TV or your Fire Stick and watch the show on the YouTube app, Highland Radio Ireland, or across our Facebook pages through Facebook Watch. Of course, you can watch on your tablet and phone as well, or on our website, highlandradio.com. Now, you can also get involved in the conversation, 086 60 25,000. It's been an incredibly busy week. That's text or WhatsApps, of course, or call us on 074 91 25,000, 074 91 25,000, and emails to comments at highlandradio.com. Right, okay. Let's say good morning to Declan Meehan, community campaigner. Declan, good morning to you. How are you keeping?
Good, thanks. Good morning.
It's great to have you on the show. Senator Lisa Chambers, Vice President of Fianna Fáil. Good to see you, Lisa. How are you keeping?
I'm good, Greg. Good morning.
And last but not least, Michael Harrison, former Garda Sergeant and current cyber threat enthusiast. Good morning to you, Michael. How are you keeping?
Morning to Greg and to the whole lot. I've been keeping well. Thanks very much.
Excellent stuff. It's great to have you all on the programme. Right. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about this new scheme This new scheme announced for Dublin, primarily Dublin apartment block holders. But first, a quick word on the situation facing the Public Expenditure Minister, Paschal Donohoe. He's fighting to save his political career, according to The Independent, as new revelations about his relationship with businessman Michael Stone pile on further pressure. Calls from the opposition for the minister to answer questions about his election expenses and donations have been increasing after he admitted failing to declare contributions from Mr Stone during the 2016 general election. And with the minister now shutting down questions about his dealings with Mr Stone, it can be revealed Mr Donohoe used a legal loophole to keep the amount Fine Gael received from Mr Stone under the radar of the political ethics watchdog. The minister changed his stance on whether the successful businessman provided financial support to him over the course of the 2020 general election. And so it goes on. Mr Donohoe held at least 13 official meetings with Mr Stone over the past 5 years, and Mr Stone's firm did not disclose its donations to Mr Donohoe's 2016 election campaign. I suppose, Lisa Chambers, you know, when you're explaining you're losing, what's your take on this whole situation and the implications for Mr Donohoe, Minister Donohoe?
Yeah, I mean, I think, he's in a difficult situation. There's no point in saying otherwise. I think when it first came out and, it appeared to be the erection of pollsters that he believed was voluntarily done, which would be the norm. I mean, certainly down this part of the country anyways, it's volunteers to put up our posters. We don't have the luxury of paying for somebody to do that. So I thought that made sense initially, to be honest, because it would be in keeping with my experience of running elections. The challenge is because we've become hyper aware of these things, I think, in the last number of years, and there's a lot more transparency, and rightly so. And there are very strict limits on what any one individual can donate to a candidate. So as an individual person, you can only give, and when I say only, it's a significant amount of money, but you can give maximum €2,000 in 1 year to any candidate. So there would be a challenge or a difficulty if the value of the service exceeded that, because then you've exceeded how much an individual can give you. And I remember back when I ran my first campaign in 2011, for example, and I was very new to politics. I really didn't know much about the how to run the campaign side of things and the admin, but we had somebody assigned to the campaign to take care of that because it's so important. And there was a friend here who has a local garage, and he gave us kind of a little minibus for the few weeks of the campaign. Now, he didn't charge for it, but we had to put a value on that, and a realistic value, and put that into the returns. So you do have to. You can't just pick and choose yourself what you think it's worth. You have to have a reasonable value attached. And
you also chose not to put that value in just conveniently underneath, certain levels as well, which I think is not insignificant in this whole story. There's a pattern there of declarations that just don't breach certain caps.
Yeah, there's certain caps in place. This came from going back years and years before I was ever involved in politics, where you would be getting significant sums of money off businesses and individuals, and that gave you an unfair advantage over, say, new candidates or competitors that wouldn't have access to that. So the idea around limits on what you can spend in a campaign and limits on what anyone can give you is that it levels the playing field for all candidates, and that's just meant to make our politics fairer. And it would be one of the big criticisms of American politics is that there's none of that, and there's millions going into campaigns, and it's completely out of control. So there's good reason why we do this, and we all have to abide by the same rules. So that is the difficulty. You had commentary over the last week saying, well, if you had X amount of pollsters, it reasonably should cost you more than that. That's been the challenge. And there's been opposition members saying we don't think it's adding up, basically, how long it took to erect a pollster and how much you're putting a value on it. So, look, I think when you go in to answer questions, and in fairness to him, he straight away, Paschal Donohoe, went into the chamber. He made a statement. He took
this has been, not in fairness now, Lisa, this has been dragging on for quite some time. His excuse was the reason it took him so long to get into the chamber was because it was hard to gather information. Quite a bit of time had passed. So this has been on his radar. This has been in his radar for quite some time, and it's only really when it blew up as a story that's when he quickly came into the door. I don't want to patronise our listeners either.
No, I know, and I'm not trying to. I mean, I suppose it just, if he said he had to get a bit of time to go back over previous records, I just want to accept that, he's being credible on that front and not. Well,
for sure. I mean, but he's managed to seem to have got information on 2020 together very, very quickly. He was in the Dáil this week, back in on Tuesday. So he was able to unravel the 2020 story really quite quickly.
Yeah. Now, I just want to make the point is that, I think when it comes to these issues, I think that we need to be a bit more cautious in our reaction to it, and that if somebody's done something wrong and they've made a mistake, the only option shouldn't be either nothing happens or you lose your job completely. Is there anything in between? Is the point I want to make, and that, you know, people make mistakes, and we don't know the full extent of all of this. And I'm saying this only knowing what all of you know as well. But you know, in public life, politicians are humans as well. Mistakes.
No, 100%. And listen, that is fine. But we also have to recognise that the public out there today have to wrangle with the likes of planning permission, with the keeping their affairs in order, making correct declarations to revenue or wherever it might be. You know, and these are rules that we live by, that are legislated for by the likes of Mr. Donoghue. So I don't want this sort of. No one wants any personal harm to come to him. No one wants any personal damage to his physical or mental health. But at the same time, we have to be able to hold someone who holds everyone else to account so highly to a high bar. You know, without fear of feeling like we could be doing something. I mean, we live in very stringent times in terms of the hoops that we have to hop through every single day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look at, you know, when you're in public life, you are held to a higher standard, and rightly so, because you are in a position where you're making the laws, you're making the policies. So it absolutely, you should be held to a higher standard. And, you know, that's why I said at the outset, I do think he's in a challenging position, because there has to be full transparency. Those rules are there for a reason. You know, I think that he did make a genuine attempt to explain the situation. I accept that has not been accepted by opposition members. So this issue has not gone away.
Okay. But before we bring the other guests in, let me ask you, because there's two timelines here. There's one whereby he or the government, your party, could say, right, we need to be seen to be doing something here for all the reasons we've been outlining. Secondly, though, it can go into the quagmire that is SIPO and be buried for 2 or 3 years. SIPO itself needs reform. So, in other words, his case would be dealt by an organisation which the government itself accepts is, clumsy, takes too long, too messy. So, what do you think the next path should be in terms of getting a satisfactory resolution to this?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have to provide further clarity to satisfy those members that are not yet happy with the responses that he's given. And it's really difficult to call these situations, because we've seen previously where something started out that appeared maybe very minor can very quickly escalate. And I think ultimately it comes down to where something starts to distract from the programme for government and the business of government. That's when you will see tough decisions being made on an individual or situation. So I think it's too early to call yet, because really he's made one statement in the Dáil. He's answered some questions. People aren't happy. He's going to have to come, in my view, he's going to have to come back again and try and settle this. And it'll come down to whether that's satisfactory. So it's too early really to call.
Yeah, and as for the reasons you outlined, the opposition know as well. And, I would imagine they're representing the views of a lot of people out there. The opposition know the more toxic thing that make this for the government, the more it forces the hand to have to make a decisive decision. And that's why it's dominated since the Christmas hollybobs ended. Right, Declan Meehan, what's your views on all of this? Good morning to you again.
Yeah, I think... as you say, when you're explaining it repeatedly and it's been drawn out over a longer period of time, then I suppose you're losing, if you like. Minister Donoghue, I guess, is under serious pressure from the opposition, particularly because the opposition and many other people in the House don't seem to regard that the information that he's given so far actually stacks up. I think that oftentimes what happens is, something small comes out like this. As further digging is done around these issues, more things become apparent. And I guess at the minute, people are sort of questioning what the nature of the relationship is between Paschal Donoghue and Michael Stone, and if there's undue influence there because of support that's been given to him. So there's a whole question there. I think that the biggest issue for the public is that the public are sick and tired of these sort of scandals, if you like. And as you said, Greg, in our own lives as citizens, we have to adhere to particular regulations and standards, etc. And when something like this comes out where someone isn't playing by the rule book as part of government or as part of the political elite, if you like, then it seems like there's a double standard. So it's I say that the Minister has been given 10 minutes in the Dáil on Tuesday to provide further explanations, and that he had asked for that to provide further explanations. So we're going into another week of news cycles. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But I think that the bottom line here is that we have seen over the past 6 months, in particular, 2 junior ministers who have been toppled by these sort of investigative journalistic investigations into former details that have been provided. Right, we've seen Board Promotional have been plunged into disarray over the various things that have been exposed about that. And I guess, it's credit to these investigative journalists who are exposing that. I know the Ditch in particular has been responsible for some of that. One of whom, it's made up of 2 journalists. One of whom is actually a Donegal fellow, Owen McNeil. I think that there's a really important place for that sort of investigative journalism. I think it's very important to hold politicians to a high standard, and it'll just be interesting to see now how it pans out for Pascal Donoghue.
Yeah, and indeed, you might just pull your microphone back just a little bit, Declan, if you don't mind. It's just peaking a little bit for us. Yeah, and I suppose when you get the independent journalists that you talk of, holding politicians to the account in the manner that they are, then it puts the pressure, I suppose, on the legacy media, the mainstream media, to do likewise. Michael Harrison, good morning to you again. What's your view on all of this?
Yeah, the Independent today, the question at the front page of the Independent today, as you read out at the start, it certainly asks a lot of questions. And we are lucky enough in this country in that the politicians that we have elected that are in Dáil, and that they are, on the whole, very decent, honest people. And political corruption, really and truly, it doesn't really exist in Ireland to the extent that it exists in other countries. But when politicians make mistakes, like the ones that have been made, they have to be explained fully. And when the Minister came out on RT the other day and he read out his statement, and the first thing that hit me was, how did he determine these values? He didn't explain that, and he admitted he made a mistake, but he didn't explain it fully. And if he had gone into better detail and greater detail, this whole thing might have been avoided. But he just left so many questions hanging there in the space. And when you read the Independent today, the article today on the front page of the Independent, certainly there is an awful lot more questions, an awful lot more detail is going to have to be gone into and explained. But it is, it's disappointing when policies and procedures that politicians lay down for themselves, that they don't follow it. And particularly with the Minister, with the experience that he has, that somebody in his team didn't think that this was an issue, that, paying this money.
But I think there was more thought was given perhaps to valuing some of this work and some of these purchasing of tickets for fundraisers, to valuing them just really at a nice level, not to raise any red flags. So there was obviously some, mental exercise there. It just wasn't in the area that you would probably expect it. Michael, have you any concern, or is it justified that this is dominating things? The opposition are all over this for multiple reasons, to hold them to account, political point scoring, who's to say. But we also have a health crisis. There's a series of protests outside hospitals tomorrow. We also have the homelessness crisis. We have the refugee crisis, the housing crisis, which is the same as, to some extent, the homelessness crisis. The Dáil back off the Christmas break, only a few days, and this is going to run into next week. Is the time spent on this justifiable? Is this that big that it needs sorting, that other stuff can be put to one side for now?
I honestly don't think that a large amount of time should be spent on this. There are huge problems in this country that exist at the moment. There's massive legislation. There's a lot of legislation that needs to be put through the Dáil. And when you read some of the papers today in the Times and the Independent, they're talking, this is possibly that we could be talking about a general election come next Christmas, come the end of the year.
What a crap present that will be.
Yeah, and this is for the average man on the street, this is a load of nonsense.
Is it? I heard that said this morning. I think
the policies and procedures haven't been followed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is significance to this. I respect your view, Michael, and others hold it. I don't know. I think this is quite important to people. Declan, what do you think?
Yeah, it's very important to people. I think it's questions that need to be answered. I think we were talking about, again, holding people to higher standards, particularly talking about a minister who's actually responsible for the standards in public office. So I think that that's something that really needs to be clarified. I do take the point, though, that there are a myriad of other issues that need to be discussed and it should be in the limelight more so. But they're not mutually exclusive, and I do think that these are important issues that also have to be cleared up.
Yeah, and finally with you, Lisa, on this is always that balance to be struck, isn't it? Where I mean, obviously there's the big issues, but then this is a relatively big issue, and it's also an issue. It's an issue related to the people that make the decisions on the big issues. So it's always a balance to be struck there.
It is, and I think for the general public, it's more like this is the third minister in a short period of time that's in the firing line. So it's more, I think the fact that there's more than one and it's been quite close together. I would agree with Declan. I think the public are just quite fed up with these issues because it's distracting. As I said, it's starting to distract from the work of government and the really important issues that are affecting people, primarily at the minute, the health service, which I think is top of the agenda, and also housing as well. So I think people are just exasperated with these kind of what they would see as silly matters that shouldn't be dominating the headlines but are dominating the headlines, and they just don't want politicians to be making these types of mistakes. As opposed
from your party's perspective, Lisa, though, like, when is enough is enough? And I know you've entered into an agreement with Fine Gael that you'd want to honour, right? But we are sort of towards the end of this term, heading towards an election cycle. There's an awful lot of toxicity. A lot of people see Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael now as two cheeks of the one bum, for want of a better way of putting it. And this is then going to have an effect on your party. I mean, are there any conversations? Maybe not within the party about, what damage does this kind of stuff do to us, and what are we going to do to try and protect the reputation of our party?
Yeah, definitely. I think within my own ranks, you saw back at the very beginning of this government when two of my colleagues had to step down very quickly for what happened in their situation. And then there would have been a feeling that the same standards were not met when it came to Simon Coveney and Leo Varadkar, that they managed to stay in their jobs. So yeah, there's tension there. I'd be dishonest if I said there wasn't. That there seems to be a different, but I suppose the way that it's operating is that it's up to each party leader to be responsible for their members in their party. And I mean, ultimately, any member of the coalition could walk away if they weren't happy, but I'm not sure that would achieve a whole lot, in that you'd be into an election and then you'd be into a protracted negotiation for government. So we don't have a whole lot of options in terms of, we have to give a bit of space for the minister to explain himself. Ultimately, it's up to Leo Varadkar to decide what standards he wants within his own party. And then ultimately, it'll come down to the public when they do go to the polls at the next election. They will decide whether they're happy or not with who's there. So
do you think it will be an earlier one, Lisa? We heard Michael indicating that there could be one, this year. Do you see this government going the full term?
I do. I'd see it going close enough to it. I mean, I think, it would have been due in February 2026. There would be a bit of chat that we would like to avoid a winter election. You could see that coming maybe in the latter part of 2024, but it's just speculation because politicians love to speculate about elections and when they might happen. I don't see it going any earlier than that, being quite honest. We've just had the changeover in December. People are settling into their roles. And I think there's a genuine seriousness, within my own party and others as well, to want to deliver on the programme for government and actually get stuff done. So I do see it lasting. I don't see an election this year. I could be wrong. Something could happen, but I don't see it happening.
Okay, well, you've covered every base. Thank you very much for that. Stay where you are. That's the voice there of Senator Lisa Chambers. We also have Michael Harrison, former Garda Inspector, and community campaigner Declan Meehan. Back with more after these.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union.
I think he enjoys the visits and calls. At the start he was a bit quiet, but I soon got him going. And so now we talk about all sorts, and he knows I'll help him out with a bit of advice when he needs it. I often say to him, isn't it lucky you started volunteering with a loan? Otherwise you never would have met me.
It feels amazing to make someone feel amazing. Volunteer with a loan. Find out more at alone.ie/volunteer.
At Electric Ireland, we're committed to helping our customers whenever they need it. That's why we've created our Customer Support Hub to keep you informed and up to date on the services and resources available to you. Our new Support Hub offers a range of solutions to help with paying your bill, tools to manage your energy consumption, and the latest news and information on government supports. Visit our Customer Support Hub at electricireland.ie.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
Don't just do okay in your career. Do great at Allstate. Don't settle. Soar. Don't procrastinate. Innovate. Don't do mediocre. Do magnificent. At Allstate. Great work. Great life. Great people. Where great opportunities await. Search Allstate NI Careers today.
Right, so as you know, during the week, the government announced a redress scheme, a 100% redress scheme for people who are living in own apartments that were built below substandard during the Celtic Tiger. For the most part, it's a fully funded 100% scheme. There's no contribution from the apartment owners. If people have done a bit of work and it's up to a certain standard, you know, there's a retrospective element to that there. I'll tell you what this is. It's like everything that Donegal mica defective concrete block homeowners were looking for. It's like it's supposed to have been printed off and given to the people of Dublin. I've never in this whole process got a sense of so much hurt and upset from people in Donegal, and I presume in Mayo and other counties, to feel that they're different, that they are not the same as those that are living in Dublin. Yes, the cost per unit in Dublin's lower, but the treatment, the crime against these people is equal. And I think that's part of the reason why this is so upsetting. Declan Meehan, obviously we spoke to you on many occasions as it relates to the defective concrete issue. Do you get the hurt and the pain out there?
Yeah, I mean, again, just to kind of...
Can I just say, by the way, you're sounding fantastic now. Thank you so much.
Great. No bother.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, full disclosure that I'm a defective block affected homeowner as well. I think the level of anger and hurt out there cannot be overstated. I think that we have to be very clear on this. And I'm sure Senator Chambers can bring this back to her colleagues, is that this is nothing short of a disgrace, and it is an insult for the people that have been campaigning for the better part of a decade, for this not only to have happened once now, but this is actually the second time that a Dublin-centric defective issue has been given 100% redress. While the minister, quite frankly, lies through his teeth to say that the scheme that has been offered to homeowners in Donegal is 100%, when we know that that's not the case. In addition to that, we're still waiting since November 2021 for the scheme that was announced even to be enacted. We're waiting on updated figures to see what the financial implications of that scheme will be with those updated figures. I mean, the anger and hurt out there, as I say, cannot be overstated. This has been a disgraceful, I suppose, episode in a checkered history that's already existed, and a slap in the face to campaigners and homeowners in Donegal, Mayo and elsewhere across the West.
My concern is everything that you've just said, but the emotional, mental toll this will take on people, what the consequences of that might be. We know really quite clearly the issues as it relates to dampness, black mould, children having to live in these homes, potentially with lifelong illnesses as a consequence. Do you know, it's not like we just feel sad or upset or disgusted and move on. This is just going to have I just worry what impact this is going to have on people mentally, and also for those that can't get out of houses because they can't find 40 or 50 grand, then the ongoing physical side of things. It's easy, I think, for us to think of a gavel falling on a group of children playing outside a house, but we can't seem to wrap our head around as the long-term health impacts, maybe life-limiting health impacts this is having on people, maybe people that can't take any more of this and will no longer be with us next year. And we want anyone that feels like that to obviously speak to someone. But just because it's not easy to wrap our heads around, it doesn't mean that this is going to have very, very tragic consequences, Declan.
Absolutely. And I think that is the side of this that, you have done great work in exposing all sorts of, the different angles that are available on this whole issue for people living with defective block homes. But it's one of the more unseen issues, particularly in national media. What we've seen over the past year and a half or year and 3 months since the new scheme was announced is the much trumpeted €420,000 cap and that figure. And as if that's, done and dusted, but we don't, as you say, see what lies beneath that, what lies beneath the figures, what lies beneath the red tape and the obstructionism from the government for a proper scheme to be delivered, which is the physical and mental toll that has taken on thousands of people across Donegal alone without having to go down the Western Seaboard at all. Thousands of people in Donegal. And I think that feeds into the anger here, that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have not listened, and they've had ample opportunity to listen over the past 10 years. They've not acted properly. They've not acted in good faith. In many ways, they led campaigners down the garden path ahead of the announcement in November 2021. We're still waiting on that, and yet anything that is around Dublin is getting 100% redress and really a very, very satisfactory scheme. Now, there's a number of things there that are feeding into the anger. Number one is, over the past week, you had the Taoiseach Leo Varadkar and the Minister for Housing, Darragh O'Brien, both come out and put on the record, and were pains to do so, that this defective apartment block scheme affects people in their constituencies. And that, for me, is a big issue there. We have a minister at the cabinet table here, and it affects a lot of people in his constituency and in his own backyard. And yet he wasn't able to do anything in order to deliver something that is satisfactory to homeowners, which I think is a huge disgrace.
It also should be mentioned, Leo Varadkar has an apartment himself that's
absolutely
that will be
repaired
and that's through this scheme.
The other side of this, Greg, as well, is that the apartments in this scheme that has been announced with 100% redress, 60% of those 100,000 apartments are actually rented, and they're owned by landlords, and they're owned by development companies, they're owned by vulture funds. There is a completely different vested interest here, and it is absolutely in tune with the sort of policies that we see come from Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael time and time again to look after those vested interests. Homeowners, regular, just Joe Blog homeowners in rural Ireland, in the Western Seaboard, are being left behind, and it is absolutely disgraceful. The anger is palpable out there, and I hope that people remember this when it comes to the next elections. It sounds like we're going to get 2 elections in 2024, locals and Europeans and general election, that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael have stood over this scheme that still has not been delivered, and people are still in limbo with the implications, as you say, on physical and mental health, as well as their financial well-being. Okay. It's absolutely outrageous.
And it's worth pointing out for anyone that hasn't heard it, anyone affected by defective concrete, in commenting on this, their first comment is, "We are delighted for the people of Dublin," and this is just, and then there's the but. It's not them or us. We're happy enough as part of general taxation or whatever to help and contribute. It's not take it from them and give it to us. It's just things to be equal and fair.
Absolutely.
Yep, Senator Chambers.
Yeah, so obviously there's a lot of people in my own community as well, in my county, that are impacted by this, and I'm not going to try and defend. I'm furious as well that there will be discrimination and different treatment, and it was the very same argument I made years back when we had the previous pyrite scheme that was in Dublin as well, that we wanted to get the same treatment across the rest of the country, because this is going to go beyond Donegal and Mayo. It's down into the rest of the country as well, hopefully not in as big a numbers. But it's just, it's deeply disappointing. And, you've both alluded to a lot of the reasons why, as a public representative in this region, in the West and the Northwest, you know, the longer I'm in politics and the more I see, the more you realise how important it is to have people at that table. And we never have enough people at that table. And I know you've mentioned Charlie McConalogue, and obviously he's a friend of mine and a colleague of mine for many, many years. He's one guy at a very large table, and he did his very best, and I know he did. But you've got a lot more representatives that are Dublin based, and their voice, you know, that's just the reality of it.
But Lisa, with respect, and I mean this with respect, it's not just a throwing out thing just before I say something. You are kind of speaking out about both sides of your mouth here, because you are the vice president of Fianna Fáil. Dara O'Brien is the housing minister. You run with these people that you talk of, that you know, that to in some way to separate Charlie McConalogue out from your other colleagues that are sitting around the same table. That's not acceptable, Lisa. I mean, if you really feel as strongly as you do, surely you leave the party or something. I don't know, but I mean, like, it's just too convenient for you to be part of this organisation that has done this to people, but at the same time criticise it, but in some way not so much Charlie McConalogue. The public aren't interested in that anymore.
No, I accept that. I'm actually not VP of Fianna Fáil. I think that might have been from a few years back. But
okay, former vice president. Sorry, my apologies.
I'm Shannon leader. So
Shannon leader. Oh, that's it. That's,
a new job.
In fairness, that's a decent job too.
Yeah. Look, I suppose because I know Charlie for so long, and I've seen how much he tried to work on this. So I just wanted to put that out there. You know, in fairness, he's not here on this call this morning.
Well, no, in fairness, all week ahead of Wednesday, and subsequently we've invited Charlie McConalogue onto the programme. He's not available yesterday and he's not available today. He might be available Monday. So it's not like we haven't.
I get that.
Very much tried to get his side of this as well, Senator Chambers. We do really try and be as fair as possible on this programme.
Yeah, no, and that's always been my experience, Greg, to be fair. I've been coming on for quite some time, so I've always found it to be a very balanced show. Look, you know, over the last number of years, dealing directly with homeowners in my own area in Mayo, and then linking in with colleagues in Donegal as well, you know, we all banded together and we met with the housing minister. I couldn't tell you how many times, because there were so many meetings about it. We brought it up at parliamentary party meetings. There's a limit to what you can do depending on where you are, you know, in the government. And ultimately, it was a decision taken by the cabinet. It was an improved scheme, but it did not go far enough. I don't think that it did. It was better than what was there originally, but it's not good enough. And, you know, I fully accept what you're saying about, you know, the reaction to what's been given in Dublin. And, you know, I think it's even more frustrating when you hear it try to be justified. Oh, it's going to cost us less because it's 25 grand in Dublin per apartment. People don't care because, as you said, it's the unequal treatment for what is the same situation. But it appears to be a different approach to one part of the country than to the other part of the country. And, you know, I mean, I appreciate I'm the government rep on this call, but I can't justify it. And I don't think you'll find any public representative along the West that will justify it. And, you know,
Minister McConalogue will come on next week and justify it, though.
Well, I suppose I can't speak for Charlie, so I'll wait and see what he says.
But it's just that this is what we have to, you know. Okay, we'll come back to it, but I want Michael Harrison's views on this as well. Then we'll take a break and just a few more questions on this. Michael, thanks for waiting patiently there. I really appreciate it.
No, it's like the scheme that was announced. You know, it's extremely annoying for anybody that's living in a mica house. You know, when you're reading the papers and you see the scheme, the way the people in Dublin have been treated differently to the people in Donegal. You're talking about the existing scheme that was announced, and Declan says that still hasn't even been started yet. But, you know, that now is not fit for purpose because building costs have literally gone through the roof. And, you know, it is capped at a certain amount. And I know somebody that's very, very close to me, and he has told me that if he has to build this house in accordance, he'll rebuild his house in accordance with the existing scheme, he's going to have to find another €150,000. But nobody in Dublin is going to have to put their hand in their pocket. He's stuck in a fixed rate mortgage at the moment. He can't even remortgage his house because the house he's living in is completely worthless. It's the stress, the mental stress that's on these families. The mental stress is on their children. You're a teenager and you're sleeping in your bedroom at night, and you can hear the house falling down around you. And yet, has that impacted you? that it is on the children, and it's been dragging on for years. And the government in Dublin, they just, at times I honestly feel that if they could sell Donegal, if they could get rid of Donegal, they would.
See, what I don't understand is the language, right? We were told we had to accept the original scheme because they would require new legislation, and that would take years. Do this now or else you're going to be banjaxed, right? With this scheme, it's as part of the announcement, not even a word about new primary legislation, that's fine. For the current scheme, bypass pre-legislative scrutiny. Why? The conversation from ministers for the MICA scheme, let's call it that, was, we have to be careful. This is taxpayers' money. We have to be careful how we spend it. This is just money that's going to come out of the exchequer. No mention of guilting us into paying for it. This government, this is going to be multi-year, right? So the majority of this wouldn't even be their problem. So they could have given 100% redress to the people of Donegal, Mayo and elsewhere. It's over multi-years. They might have had to spend a couple of billion, but let the next crew sort it out. But this Dublin one just fixed like that. Now, I know there's been some on-the-ground campaigning for a decade, right? But they didn't have to march through the streets. They didn't have to take time off work to try and get some justice in relation to this. So there's nothing in this I can understand why they would treat the people of rural Ireland, let's put it like that, so differently to the people of the capital. There's so much in there that doesn't make sense. And it's almost you'd have to go out of your way to treat people as badly as they did, because you could easily announce a fully funded scheme. And as I say, it's over multiple years. It would generate employment. There'd be VAT. There's a million arguments that you could justify. If you wanted to do it, they could have done it, Michael. They could have done it, but for some reason they didn't want to.
That is it, and it is the fact. And going back right to the start, there was rules and regulations on how to make these concrete blocks, and if the government had inspectors there, if they had people there to make sure that these blocks were being made, to the proper standard, this problem wouldn't have happened. So it is the government that caused this problem. If they had people in place to inspect and to supervise that these quarries were making the concrete block to the correct standards, this problem wouldn't have happened. So it is the government that caused it, and they're going to have to pay for it, and they're going to have to pay for 100%. And this discrimination against people in the west of Ireland, and particularly in Donegal, is just totally and utterly unacceptable. And my heart goes out to everybody out there that's living in one of these houses. And it is just it's the huge big picture of it, where they can't even look for a more attractive interest rate. And some of them are owned by debt management companies. The interest rates they're charging are quite excessive. And how can they remortgage? Because the property they're living in is valueless. Yet the government is sitting there in this legislation doing absolutely nothing about it, doing nothing to help the people in this country. It's just very, very annoying.
All right, we'll get a few more comments on this after the break.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Winter sale at Brian McCormick Sports now on. In-store and online. Discounts of up to 30% off. Asics, New Balance, Brooks and Hoka footwear. GT2000, Gel Cumulus, New Balance 880, Hoka Clifton 8 to name just a few. Treat your feet in our winter sale. Grab a discount and stretch those legs. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Come here till I tell you, Aisling. Did you hear Gary in number 43? He's been going for hours.
Stop.
On the phone all day, streaming, messaging.
Stop the lights. Who is it?
On Post Mobile.
Wait, what?
At €18 a month for unlimited data, calls and texts, it's almost too good to be true. Switch today to your local post office or at unpost.com/mobile and get your first month free. Unpost Mobile, for your world. Fair usage and T's and C's apply. Auto top up €18 for 31 days unlimited allowance, otherwise 28 days. See website for details.
Callahan's Gala and Go Burt, your one-stop family shop. Drive into our newly renovated spacious forecourt. Fill up with our upgraded modern fuel pumps and save with our keen Go fuel prices. Located on the main Letterkenny to Derry Road, we're the ideal pit stop on your Donegal journey. Fast flow fuel, self-service or attended with a smile.
Sure, it's all go at Callahan's.
Dogs, cats, rabbits, birds and fish. Some of the popular home pets that need care and attention every day. At Gary's Pet World, our fully trained staff are here to help you and your pets. We offer great advice and value on all foods, accessories, grooming and care products with incredible offers on all leading brands. Shop in store at Gary's Pet World, Letterkenny Retail Park, open 7 days per week, or browse and buy 24/7 at petworld.ie.
Next week on Highland Radio, we'll be launching an exciting new series called Clár sa Car.
Gath Modin March, we'll be joining Colin and Sophie for some Cora agus crack on the school run. Agus by Jeshigov were couple of Fakala Usaj. So Biggie Lane, Modin March and Shaw are Highland Radio.
Clár sa Car, Highland Radio is funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with a television licence fee.
Okay, still in the company of Declan Meehan, Michael Harrison and Senator Lisa Chambers. Lisa, before we move on to other issues, I'm not expecting you to speak on behalf of government or to explain government decisions, because it's, there's many cogs in that wheel. But just to the points I was making before the break to Michael, can you understand, or do you have any understanding of the logic of the decision-making process that the people of rural Ireland would be seen some way lesser to people of the city, or whether it's the vested interests or the vulture funds or landlords or whatever versus the private homeowner? Do you have any insight from people you've talked to as to the logic as to how that might in some parlours be okay to differentiate between people like that?
Well, it's not okay. What we have, this is what I've picked up over the last number of years working on this issue, is that, a lot of these decisions are heavily impacted by senior civil servants in the public expenditure department, in the housing department. And it was the scale of the cost of it. And, they knew that there was going to be other homes across the country as well. It doesn't make it right, but it came down to the level of cost involved. But you made the point earlier, Greg, we're talking about doing this over years. It's not like it's all getting paid in 1 year, and you spread it out over a number of years. And, in time, it won't seem as big an amount of money as it does today. So it could have been done. It wasn't done. It came down to cost. And I think the senior civil servants behind those two key departments, particularly public expenditure, played a key role in reining in what was allowed to be spent on the scheme. And, that's why you'll hear ministers trotting out the line, the scheme in Dublin is much cheaper because it's a smaller thing to fix. I think that just annoys people more. But there's a reason that they're saying that, because that's what they're getting told from their advisors. So that's just my very anecdotal, what I believe is happening behind the scenes. I've not been at those meetings. I can't give you any evidence of that. I wasn't at that table, but that's what I think was happening over the last number of years.
Declan, I got a sense in the run-up to the new scheme being announced that there was a bit of, I don't know, that maybe the civil servants were flexing their muscles, that they didn't want to be bossed about, that maybe they wanted to stick it to the people of Donegal.
I mean, that certainly seemed to be indicated by some of the campaigners that were involved, and obviously who had sat in that room. I think that maybe it's all too easy to blame civil servants for government decisions, though. At the end of the day, the minister is responsible for signing off on a scheme and finalising it. The buck stops with him, and I do think that in the lead up to that announcement back in November 2021, I think that he was talking out of both sides of his mouth. He was saying one thing to campaigners, and obviously he was saying another thing to his colleagues at government and in the Department of Housing as part of the civil service. And the proof is in the pudding by what he announced back in November 2021. It was at odds with what he had promised campaigners, but 24 hours before that announcement. So I think that, it is very easy for us and very easy for people within government and the cogs of government to say, the civil servants actually exert an awful lot of influence there. I think if that is the case, then you have a weak minister. So either way, the minister is signing off on it and is unable to bring civil servants around, in which case that's incompetence, or he's complicit with and agrees with the civil servants, in which case it's incompetence because he's not delivering what needs to be delivered. Either way, it's a failing on the minister's part. There is no two ways about that. What we have been left with is a substandard scheme compared to what has now been delivered for Dublin. There's two things I just want to bring up on that as well. The estimated cost for this scheme in Dublin is 2.5 billion, an average cost of 25,000 for 100,000 properties in and around. The estimated cost for the scheme in Donegal Mayo is 3.2 billion. You're talking about a difference of 700 million. You're talking about a small change in the grand scheme of things.
I think there's probably an acceptance, though, that this scheme is perhaps going to be many multiples of that. Once you look at 13 counties, we've also heard now some houses in the south of the country are starting to show signs of failure because of these deleterious materials. No, I'm not sure. Again, this would be multi-year and whatever. I don't think I'm in any way undermining your point in saying that. I'm just sort of throwing out there that maybe,
Yeah, absolutely. I take that point on board. I think but what they have considered it to be is certainly not a huge difference between the two. The other thing is that they're so concerned with the cost of this to the taxpayers, certainly more so the cost of rural builds than urban builds to the taxpayer. There's been no shaming around those who have defective apartments, as opposed to the shaming that has gone on over the years for people who have defective homes in rural Ireland. And yet, they have not done anything to change or to tighten regulations to prevent this happening or continuing to happen down the line. We are aware of defective block homes in Donegal that date from 2016 and 2017, which is years and years after this was first raised at government level as an issue. So government have not acted in order to change the regime that's there in order to prevent this happening going forward. So, if they're so concerned about costs, why don't they actually put something in place to prevent this happening down the line? They actually don't care about costs. Okay. That's actually the bottom line.
Right, if we presume that Sinn Féin are in power in the next government, let's just presume that for the sake of this conversation, we'll probably then find out who runs this country. Is it the elected government, or is it shall we call it a permanent government? Because Sinn Féin have promised the sun, the moon and the stars, and it'll be up to them to deliver that.
Yeah, that's very good. It's a very good point, Greg. There's no doubt about it. And I think Declan's point, the last point that he made there, and that is, that really gets back to the crux of the issue. They're still doing nothing to make sure this problem could happen again. It is the Irish state that caused this problem by not having people in place to make sure that the building products that were going into houses in this country were up to proper standard, and they're still not doing it. And why haven't the legislators, the senior civil servants in government, why haven't they gone to their political masters and says, listen, we need this piece of legislation here to make sure we need to employ inspectors to go around to these quarries to make sure that this problem won't happen again. That is a very, very serious point that you're saying. Who actually does run this country? Is it the permanent civil servants, the senior civil servants that's in place in government, or is it the elected representatives?
Yeah, because my mind goes back to, I think, from memory, I was very young at the time, Mary Horney, when she went into government and very quickly said, well, things were worse than we anticipated, or it's harder to change things than you might imagine or whatever. But as I say, we're going to find that out probably sooner rather than later. Where do you see the balance of power, Lisa, between, let's just call it a permanent government and an elected government?
Yeah, it's not where it should be. If we call them the permanent government, the senior civil servants do play a huge role in policy formation, and just listening to colleagues that have gone into ministerial roles in this term. You hear stuff back that, I'm kind of given a speech, or I'm told what the line is. And, it can be quite difficult to challenge, because the senior people in those departments, they kind of know you're not going to be there for very long. The most you'll do is 5 years.
I think the most obvious example of that is the health minister. And this is nothing personal against Stephen Donnelly, but really what he verbalises is what the HSE tells him, or what is the senior members, the senior civil servants' department. It's very clearly there's very little original words that come out of his mouth. And I'm not saying that as a criticism against it, but it's always, well, I've been told by the HSE this, or my department officials have told me that.
Well, actually, the health minister is a good example of somebody that has tried to push back on several occasions and has felt the wrath of those that do not agree with him internally. And take, for example, the whole debacle over the rapid antigen testing. The length of time it took Stephen Donnelly, who was pushing for that, and the pushback internally was so strong, they did not want these tests to come out. So they can make it a long road for you to get to where you want to go, because they know how the department runs.
But they don't call it out, though. For some reason, politicians don't call this out. I think we're having the conversation in the public. I don't think you wouldn't get a minister to say, I want to do this, but I'm being frustrated by elements within the civil service. You
have somebody saying that you're not fit for your job and you're weak.
Well, that's it. But we need to then find a way that we can. Well, someone's going to have to expose it some way down the line. Lisa, I have to go. We have to go. I wish I had another hour. It just goes in too quickly, because you've just opened up a whole new conversation that we'd love to.
Come back to that.
Yeah, exactly. Senator Lisa Chambers, thanks very much for taking your time to speak to us. It's greatly appreciated. Michael Harrison, always great to have you on. Thank you very much indeed. Retired Guardian Inspector and a cyber threat enthusiast, and thankfully we can tap into your knowledge in that area from time to time as well, which is great. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks very much, Greg.
And last but not least, Declan Meehan, I really do appreciate your time as well. There's a question came in. If you can't find it here now, we'll ask you off air. It's about a road somewhere close to somewhere, and people think you can sort it out. So we'll pass that on to you off air, and maybe you can. All right, listen, thank you very much for your time. Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. And that's it. That was the Friday panel.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans.
If you're about to use an electrical appliance, like your washing machine, which uses a lot of energy, just ask the question, is this a good time?
Yeah, it's fairly breezy out. You're good to go.
If it's windy out, it is a good time, because wind generates renewable energy, which Ireland will be relying on more and more. To find out the best times for your electricity usage, sign up to our pilot at esbnetworks.ie/pilot.
Is your car or van winter ready? Get your free winter check now at Hegarty's Ford in Letterkenny. It includes checking your lights, wipers and coolant. Also, the most common cause of winter breakdowns, your battery. And what you depend on most to keep you safe on the road, your tyres, where the tread depth should be at least 1.6 millimetres. Hegarty's will check all these and more to keep you motoring safely through the winter and beyond. Get winter ready by contacting Hegarty's Ford in Letterkenny today.
Get ready for Ardra's first festival of 2023 from Friday the 3rd to Monday the 6th of February. Their country and western festival kicks off with Patsy Kavanagh and Shuni Cramsey in concert on Friday. Afternoon entertainment with Gypsy Rovers, and on Saturday night, Elaine Boyle and many more acts. The Country and Western Festival, Ardra, St. Bridget's Bank Holiday Weekend. Lots of accommodation available. See ardra.ie.
Is this it? Is this your life? Up early to beat the traffic, in the van, same voices on the radio, same tunes. The Irish Naval Service will take you somewhere else. It'll take you to the edge, to deep water, in any weather, to challenge yourself, to learn the life skills any employer will look for when you move on. And the good news? The Irish Naval Service is recruiting right now. Visit military.ie and be more in the Irish Defence Forces.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Okay, a mostly dry day with some sunny spells developing, though cloud will increase by evening, remaining chilly in the north with highest temperatures of 3 to 5 degrees and light south-east breezes. Okay, we'll be back with more on the 9 till noon show after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
At Ulster Bank,
our team is continuing to close current and deposit accounts, along with some of our branches. At this time, if your notice period and your deadline has passed, your account is now queued for closure. All personal and business account deadlines are fast approaching. You must take urgent action. If you are still relying on your bank account and in need of more support, please contact us immediately. Visit ulsterbank.ie, your local branch, or call 0818 210 260. Call costs may vary and calls from mobiles may not be free. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Live is a different experience with every performance at over 60 Arts Council funded venues across Ireland. Experience live performance in your area. Book that ticket today.
#LiveIs, funded by the Arts Council.
New me, new Nissan. Life's too short. Spoil yourself. Go on, you're worth it. With Nissans available for immediate delivery, don't let your neighbour outshine you. Call in today to find out why the Nissan range is unbeatable. With low interest rates available, it's an easy decision to start your 2023 on a good note. Visit imotors.ie or visit us in Malin or Letterkenny.
It's the day of destiny in Grove Park for the 2012 All-Ireland Final.
And Greenan Theatre are proud to present a brand new play, Jimmy's Winning Matches.
The whole county is here. Is there anyone left at home at all?
At Greenan Theatre from Thursday 19th to Saturday 21st of January.
You want to know a wee secret about football? You have to keep getting up again. Every time you're hit.
Tickets from greenan.com.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donal Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. Paschal Donoghue's explanation for his failure to declare election expenses lies in tatters. That's according to Sinn Féin, as the Public Expenditure Minister has committed to answering questions in the Dáil over his dealings with businessman Michael Stone. It follows a Dáil statement earlier this week which was met with criticism from the opposition. Sinn Féin's finance spokesperson, Donegal TD Pearse Doherty, says the Minister needs to address outstanding questions.
I think it's quite telling that the Minister hasn't answered very basic questions. So like a very simple question that I've asked him now 7 times is, did Michael Stone not only pay for the election posters to be erected in 2016, but did he pay for his election posters to be erected in 2020? Why is the Minister refusing to answer that?
Well, questions have been asked about the possibility of an early general election, but the leader of the Seanad, Fianna Fáil Senator Lisa Chambers, this morning poured cold water on that suggestion. Speaking on the 9 till noon show, Senator Chambers said there is a widespread feeling that autumn next year is the most likely time for an election. She said that's a view that she shares.
Would have been due in February 2026. There would be a bit of chat that we would like to avoid a winter election. You could see that coming maybe in the latter part of 2024, but it's just speculation because politicians love to speculate about elections and when they might happen. I don't see it going any earlier than that, being quite honest. We've just had the changeover in December, and I think there's a genuine seriousness within my own party and others as well to want to deliver on the programme for government and actually get stuff done. So I don't see an election this year.
Another deadline has passed for the restoration of power sharing in the north. It passed at midnight without a deal. Technically, that should trigger fresh elections. The Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris hasn't said he'll set a date just yet. Efforts are continuing between EU, Irish and UK officials over the Brexit protocol, to which the DUP is demanding changes. There is a renewed optimism that a compromise deal will soon be achieved. There are calls for an urgent plan to be put in place for the erection of modular homes in Donegal. Minister Catherine Martin previously suggested up to 7,000 modular homes are to be built in the country. Councillor Albert Doherty, however, says there appears to be no evidence of such. He says what this means for Donegal needs to be made clear.
That phase 1 of the modular homes plan would deliver 2,000 beds, and she continued that the local authority through their vacant homes would deliver 1,000 beds, and lastly she said that the Department of Housing with their refurbishment grant would deliver 3,000 beds. Well, that's close to 7,000 beds, and I want to know where is Donegal in this plan, and most of all, phase 1 modular homes, where in Donegal, when in Donegal, and who for in Donegal.
The government needs to scale up efforts to tackle the housing and homelessness crisis. That's one of the 73 recommendations from the Children's Rights Alliance to the UN on Ireland's record on children's rights. It says the number of homeless children has more than doubled since its last report raised concerns about the rise in child homelessness. A local councillor believes the reintroduction of flights to Glasgow or Edinburgh from Donegal Airport will be vital for the county's tourism. Sinn Féin councillor John Hamish O'Farry says the reintroduction of flights from Donegal Airport would be extremely beneficial to the county's tourism and economy, while also benefiting local students travelling to college. He believes steps should be taken to explore potential opportunities to find a new airline to provide such flights.
And now that we're in the diaspora in Glasgow and Edinburgh, to entice people to come here, we definitely need an air connection. And the last number of years that has not happened due to the fact that the airline pulled out, and we want a new airline put in place, whether it be Aer Lingus or Ryanair. I know it's short runaway, but I'm sure that the aircrafts that they have, they would be beneficial to Carrickfinn, and this would be beneficial to the local economy as well by introducing these flights back to either Glasgow or Edinburgh.
Well, the forecast mostly dry with some sunny spells developing, cloud increasing by this evening, remaining chilly in the north with highest temperatures 3 to 5 degrees Celsius in light southeast breezes. And that's Highland Radio News for now. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, have a very good morning.
Obituary notices for Friday morning, January 20th. The death has taken place in England of Rose Murphy, Nee Glacken, Ballygorman, Mallinhead. Rose's remains are reposing at her home in Ballygorman today, where you're welcome to pay your respects from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. Funeral Mass will take place tomorrow at 11 a.m. in St Mary's Church, Lag, Malin, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Rose's funeral Mass can be viewed live on the Mallinhead Community Facebook page. The death has occurred of Maureen Kelly, Nee McKenna, Shandrum, Drumfries, Buncrana. Maureen's remains will repose at her home from 6 p.m. today. Funeral on Sunday at 11 o'clock Mass in St Mary's Church, Cockhill, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Funeral can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Robbie Ellish, Drumstevlin, Donegal Town. Remains reposing at his family home today and tomorrow from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. House private at all other times and on the morning of the funeral, please. Funeral service in Killymard Parish Church on Sunday at 2 p.m, followed by burial in New Edrum Graveyard. Family flowers only, donations in lieu to Parkinson's Association Donegal Branch and Alzheimer's Society Donegal, care of George Irwin Funeral Directors or any family member. The death has occurred of Catherine Kate McErlin, Nee Convery, Newtown Cunningham, County Donegal, formerly Coolnasilla, Mahara. Funeral from her home in Munglass, Newtown Cunningham tomorrow morning at 11:15 a.m. for 12 noon Requiem Mass in All Saints Church, Newtown Cunningham. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, donations in lieu to the Donegal Hospice. The death has occurred of Anne McHugh, Nee McCann, The Commons, Killybegs, County Donegal. Removal this afternoon at 1:30 p.m. to St Mary's of the Visitation Church, Killybegs, for 2 p.m. funeral mass. Burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Mass will be streamed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Northwest Hospice, Sligo. The death has occurred of Eileen Shovlin, Nee McMenamin, Church Road, Killybegs, County Donegal, and formerly Bellalt, Crossroads, Killygordon. Removal this morning at 10:30 a.m. to St Mary's of the Visitation Church, Killybegs, for 11 a.m. funeral mass. Mass will be streamed live on mcnmedia.tv. Burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Killybegs Community Hospital, care of any family member or McBurty Funeral Directors. The death has occurred of Hughie Eamon McGarvey, Chapel Road, Bringnalack, Gweedore. His remains are reposing at his son Hugh's residence, Chapel Road, Bringnalack. Funeral from there tomorrow, going to Chack Bubble Columkill, Knockfalla, for Requiem Mass on Saturday at 11 a.m, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Rosary tonight at 8 p.m. Family time from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on Charlie McClafferty Funeral Director Facebook page. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to Irish Alzheimer's Unit, Gweedore, care of any family member. The death has occurred in London, England, of Christopher Doherty, Christy Gill, The Rock, Fafena, Ballymagan, Buncrana. Funeral this morning at 11 a.m. in St Mary's Church, Cockhill, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Ronan Roddy, Trena Mullen, Stranorler. Funeral leaving his home tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. for Requiem Mass in the Church of Mary Immaculate Stranorler at 11 a.m. Interment afterwards in Drumbow Cemetery. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish webcam. Donations in lieu of flowers, if so desired, directly to the Donegal Hospice or care of any family member. The house is private to family and close friends, please. The death has occurred of Mary McGonigal, Nee O'Donnell, Krishla Moore, Burnfoot. Removal tomorrow morning at 10:15 a.m. to St Mary's Church, Vaughan, for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m, followed by interment in the adjoining cemetery. Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flyers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to Ballytrim House, Rafo, care of any family member, or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has occurred of Annie Boyle, Nee McLoone, Loch Crillon Road, Glenties, and formerly of Ahla and the Crows. Funeral Mass at St Connell's Church, Glenties, this afternoon at 1 p.m, with burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Family flyers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to Killybegs Community Hospital, care of James McGuinness and Sons Funeral Director, or any family member. And the death has occurred of Michael Tommy Boyle, Lough Fad. Funeral from his daughter's residence at 5 Golf Cottages, Cluny, this morning for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass in St Connell's Church, Kilclunny, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flyers only. Donations in lieu, if desired, to the Alzheimer's Society Donegal branch, care of James McGuinness and Sons Funeral Director, or any family member. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Inflation pushes up building costs, so it's important to review your home insurance cover to make sure you have the right cover for your needs. Underinsurance happens where there's a difference between the value of your cover and the cost of repairing damage or replacing contents. It's a risk you can avoid. Review your home insurance policy regularly. For more, visit understandinginsurance.ie/underinsurance. Brought to you by Insurance Ireland.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
And just a reminder for you, firstly, actually, pardon my ignorance, welcome back to the programme. Good morning if you've just tuned in. It's good to have you on board. You missed a very interesting, I hope it was a very interesting first hour to the show. Frustrating because we're talking about stuff, but not necessarily fixing it, but maybe we will in the long game. But you can always watch back or listen back, by the way, on YouTube or on our website. And just to remind those of you who wish to watch the programme, to save watching, whatever nonsense is on the telly at the moment, we've got better nonsense for you. Go into the YouTube app on your smart TV or your Fire Stick or Facebook Watch and type in Highland Radio. Watch us live there and get involved in the conversation. Listening to your programme on the Micah scandal, Greg, surely the government and ministers are appointed to look after the 26 counties, not just an area in Dublin. And this should not come down to what voices are at the cabinet table, as per what Lisa Chambers said. That comes in from Noreen. Good morning, Greg. It's about time we had sunset clauses for civil servants. These are unelected people running our country. How is it allowed to happen? Another equality for Micah homes means rebuild 10 homes in Dublin, then rebuild 10 homes in Donegal. Some Micah homes in the south have been excluded from the scheme. This is wrong. Any home on Irish soil with Micah should be included. We need balance of equality. Good morning, Greg. It's heartbreaking that a child has been killed by what has been termed a jealous dog. When are people going to learn that dogs are animals which should be kept outside and not inside the house? That slipped in, sorry, it's just on a separate issue. Congrats to Councillor Ian McGarvey and his retirement after 20 years of public service, but the decision to hand on his council seat to his nephew smacks of the usual nepotism and undemocratic Donegal dynasty politics akin to the politics of a banana republic. Any elected rep who stands down must be replaced by a rep elected by voters, not appointed or anointed by a family member. That's true democracy. I don't think, just given the amount of councillors there are around the country, I don't think another election to replace outgoing councillors, I'm not sure that's practical. Again, not contradicting you, by the way. That's just my hot take on it. And whomever is co-opted onto the council eventually does have to stand in front of the public. But I take your point. I'm not saying you're wrong in any way. Just throwing that out there just to see what other people think. Hi, Greg. Not to make light of it, but is there mica on the roads too? Because after 1 week of snow, they fall apart, potholes everywhere, or are we just getting cheap tar? Draw that line on a map from Dublin to Galway. The government don't care about anything above the line. Health, infrastructure, public transport, and again, the families that are most in need bring the government down. Another great cop-out, Lisa. Blame the civil servants. Why do we need highly paid ministers, etc., if the civil servants are in charge? Well, what we're going to have, though, if this is going to become a norm of... if this is going to become a norm of political conversation, right? If there's a big jobs announcement... Politicians, you can stay at home, send out the civil servants to welcome the jobs announcement. If a new hospital is being built, Stephen Donnelly, you stay at home, let's bring the civil servants out for the photo opportunity. If the sod's being turned on a new project or a new road's being opened, Eamon Ryan, not that he wants to open any roads, you stay at home or go out in your Rahar for a scotch, let the civil servants cut the tape, because... if politicians are now going to start lumping some of the blame at civil servants, well, they're going to have to start giving them some of the credit too, aren't they? You know, horses for courses, or whatever the saying is. Hi, Greg. Thank you so much for voicing the cross-border issue yesterday on the radio. Could you ask today's guests their opinion on it, please? I very much appreciate the airtime you've given this issue. Just saw that now. It's very specific, though. You know, it's really specific. And I'm not for 1 second questioning that my guests wouldn't have an opinion on it. But it's very technical. Even as it's being explained, you sort of start to realise how technical an issue it is. I understand that Minister Charlie McConalogue may have managed to squeeze us into his diary, so hopefully we'll be speaking to him before 11. So if you were thinking of tuning out, do not. How many affected apartments in Dublin are owned by the vulture funds? And considerable. How many affected apartments in Dublin are owned by politicians? Well, we know of one. He just happens to be the Taoiseach. The extended deadline for 2 facilitators passed over a week ago. Has anyone applied for the roles? Are they still going ahead? That's as it relates to the defective concrete scandal. The government made this decision because 40 or 50 of the apartments in the county are owned by vulture funds, foreign investors and pension funds who have power to influence individual ministers in the government and have the power and money to take action through the courts. You know what? Maybe it would be more palatable then if they said that this is part of a back scratching exercise. I'm not saying it is, but if that's the case, you know, maybe we could, it'd be easier to accept it because at least there'd be some honesty rather than us being made feel silly. Right, okay. Michael, hold the line there. I do have to take a quick break because the bingo numbers are due. We're back with Michael. Mary T. Sweeney's going to join us ahead of that protest tomorrow. Minister Charlie McConalogue's going to be on before 11, I hope, as well. And then after 11, you know yourself, I'll tell you more about that in a bit.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 20th of January. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S15. It's game number 3. The numbers are 80, 36, 43, 48, 4, 46, 73, 12, 28, and finally 84. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
If you don't like waiting, then the new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV is the car for you. That's because the C5 Aircross is available now, so you really won't have to wait at all. And ironically, with its advanced comfort technology, best-in-class boot space, amazing finance offers and 5-year warranty, it would definitely be worth waiting for, if you had to wait. Which you don't.
The new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV is in stock now at Highland Motors, Mountaintop, Letterkenny. A new year, a new floor. At Floorit, we offer quality solid, semi-solid and laminate click vinyl wood flooring together with a vast choice of parquet herringbone flooring, all fitted and tailored to your needs. Call in today and see for yourself the fantastic offers available this January. Call Floorit today on 087 161 7008 or visit floorit.ie.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering Programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Now, Michael, good morning to you.
Good morning, Craig.
What do you think should happen? My microphone's falling out here. What do you think should happen next as it relates to the defective concrete scandal?
Well, I think the first thing that should happen is we're all aware now that the politicians in Donegal, or the public representatives in Donegal, have let the people of Donegal down. I think it's in the hands now of the people of Donegal and the other counties that are affected along the western seaboard, all of them to resign en bloc and force the government into a general election. People are aware. They haven't, the people are aware now exactly what's happened in Dublin. It's to appease the money people in Dublin that's paying off the politicians, and that's exactly what has happened. I'm not casting any aspersion on any politician in Donegal. I don't know that, but they have failed the Donegal people. Now, Charlie McConnell-Lowe's coming on now at 11 o'clock. Now, Charlie McConnell-Lowe's a government minister, and he knew exactly what has been happening. I'm just holding my breath to see what he's going to come up with, as well as the other people in Donegal, what he's going to come up with. He knew exactly what was happening, and he has kept quiet. And he's not only dishonoured himself, he's dishonoured the people of Donegal for thinking that we're that stupid, and we're not. I think the people in Donegal should en masse now show mass protest within Donegal, Mayo and along the western seaboard, and force these band of criminals out of Ireland.
No, I don't know who you're referring to. That I don't know who you're referring to there, but we can't refer to people en masse as criminals. But I understand your frustration, and I think I understand the wider point. But as I say, I don't know who you might be speaking of there, and we don't need to get into specifics. But you believe then that this is the straw, that enough is enough?
If this isn't the straw that has broke the camel's back, the people in Donegal and along the western seaboard that have been affected by Mica should stop campaigning today and forget all about it, for the simple reason why they're not listening. They're not listening to the peaceful protest. They're not listening to the people of Donegal. They're not listening to the families that are affected by Mica. And as well as that, the county councillors as well. They're as responsible for this as anybody else. They have been in power now. There's councillors there have been there 10, 15, 20 years, and they've been councillors.
But can they do anything, Michael, councillors, in fairness? I mean, I don't think there's any one of them that hasn't backed the campaign.
No, they can do absolutely nothing. It's pointless having them there. What is the point in having councillors there? 31, 32 councillors in Donegal.
37,
you have Mayo. Yeah. And what's the point in having them there if they can do nothing for their constituents in Donegal? Now, there's an awful lot of people, when they heard this scheme that was announced there during the week about the apartments in Dublin getting the full 100% readdress, and it was in Donegal a full 100% readdress, but it never was going to be that. So they buckled it down to 90-10. Look, we've all got members of our families that has been affected by Mica, and there's some of them will never, ever, ever be able to build their houses again. Mm-hmm. Never. And that's going to.
But do you know what's going to happen? Do you know what's going to happen though in Donegal and probably elsewhere, and maybe it's already happened, Michael? There's going to be a small band of people. Now, hear me out. This is not. You can say I'm wrong. It's for conversation. There's going to be a small band of people like you that say, right, enough is enough, we need to take to the streets. I think it'll be relatively small in number. Then we're going to have a group of people that will vote along party lines consistently anyway, no matter what happens. They're not going to switch necessarily from Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael or Labour to Sinn Féin. And that's that one group. And then I think the over 50% group, 55% of people are shrugging their shoulders and just say, this is just the way it is. What's the point? I'm not even going to vote. There's no point anymore. The whole thing is a farce. We're forgotten here. I'm not even going to waste my time going to the local national school to cast a vote. And there's no point protesting because they don't listen anyway. I think the problem here is the majority in Donegal now is going to be apathetic people. People that don't care anymore. They don't think there's any point in any of it.
Oh, well, there's a lot of people, I understand, there's a lot of people thinking that way and they're disillusioned. I'll tell you, the people that's not affected by Micah are disillusioned. How are the people that are affected, how do they feel? I think, the going to Dublin and marching up and down O'Connell Street, and I was there. Take it from me, I was there. I was at a few of the protests and I've been there and supported members of my family that have got to Micah. But the time has come for it to start at the very, very bottom. There's nobody, and there will be nobody probably held responsible for this. And it starts with the Donegal County Council. It starts with the planners and enforcement, and nobody has been held accountable. The County Council, the councillors haven't held anybody responsible.
But even in the Dublin scheme, there's no accountability. I mean, let's say whomever is responsible for these defects are not having to put their hand in their pocket. They're not going to have to fund this in any way, shape or form. There's no talk either of some sort of a levy or what have you. The way the Dublin announcement has been discussed and related to the public, how different it is to let's call it the Donegal announcement, it's blatant. It's so blatant. Michael, listen, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it and very well articulated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, okay. Well, we'll see how inclined we are to protest tomorrow. The weather's clearing up tomorrow. The road should be pretty clear come 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Hopefully they are. There is a protest or a day of action or a demonstration outside Letterkenny. We spoke to Mary T. Sweeney, chair of the Letterkenny Hospital campaign last week, I believe it was, and Mary T. rejoins us on the programme now. As I say, I suppose we'll see how angry we are or how motivated we are tomorrow, Mary T.
Well, Greg, can I just lend my voice of disgust to what's happening with the unfair allocation of funding where Donegal has been neglected again. But can I ask as well that people considering changing tactics in the Micah campaign, and they don't care about family homes, so why not look at the structures that have been built that are public structures? The building that deals with the housing for Lifford, for Donegal County Council, is riddled with Micah, and the corners are obviously all cracked and open when I was in Lifford at the last day of action. What about our hospital that has had a huge new construction there in the last 20 years? I wonder, is that safe? Perhaps we should start looking at these public service schools and hospitals and seeing if they care about those and identifying and putting labels outside the buildings and saying, my home has Micah. People are still buying property in Letterkenny that don't realise the houses have Micah.
Well, I'm really troubled by houses being sold in Donegal that have Micah, and it's not stated on the advertisement. I am familiar with 3 cases of that. It has to be proven, so it's not very easy to talk about specifics on a radio show because you have to be very clear because there's people involved in the selling of that. But that's hard to believe that's what's going on, that some people's forever home, they're actually going to end up inheriting this nightmare, because I find it hard to believe if someone who has Micah doesn't know they have Micah, and I find it hard to believe an estate agent wouldn't know a house has Micah. But anyway, listen, your points noted as it relates to sharing the frustration and anger and the suggestion as it relates to maybe a branch of the campaign, if not a redirection of it. But our focus for the next little while, Mary T, is going to be on the day of action at Letterkenny University Hospital tomorrow at 1 p.m. I mean, I don't know if the size of the turnout really. It doesn't really matter, does it? It's about who can squeeze the time out of the day to get out. I don't know.
Let's start positive, Greg. Let's call the people out. Let's implore them to give their dinner hour for 1 hour tomorrow, from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. We've invited all our councillors, all our politicians. It's up to them if they wish to come. We've invited the deputies. Please come along if you're interested, because at the moment the crisis is going from worse to worse. The staff are under significant pressure and there's nobody speaking up. The reality is, if you go into the hospital with a clipboard, you could spend a full 48 hours finding out really what needs to be fixed. but there's nobody listening to the staff. We have got to say to ourselves, how much more can we take? The HSE is not working. Their system is not working. The internal people I'm talking to said the Northwestern Health Board, when it operated, you could lift the phone when there was a problem and you got somebody that you knew at the end of the phone. Now with the HSE, it's ubiquitous. You don't know who's who. There's so many jobs for the boys in the middle of all this. We need to stop it and have a bit of sense and start looking at the number of staff we're losing, the skill set that we're losing. We need to say to our nurses that we're told, yeah, there's definitely jobs for you here. And there's not jobs for them there, yet we need them there.
So are you saying tomorrow's demonstration is as much about supporting the staff and their working conditions as it is protesting the general state of the health service?
Greg, if you don't have a good team, we can't have a good service. It really is our hospital. And we really need to take control and stand up and say, I can't have any more people sitting in an ambulance for 12 hours and another ambulance has to come along and take that patient and let one service go home. Ambulances are sitting queued at the door. People, elderly people, sick people sitting 24 hours. There's a multitude of stories coming into me. I'm sure you know most of them. But people, you're invited to come tomorrow if you need a forum to explain your story. Mental health is in crisis. The A&E department is in crisis. We need to rethink the whole structure and not to just throw money at something that is formed wrong.
Right, and as you said the last time, there's no political banners at this. This is...
None. But bring your message. If it's a health service, if it's the children's services, if it's mental health, if it's just the A&E waiting time, if it's just support the nurses and doctors. You know, I understand we've lost a number of excellent consultants in the last couple of years because of the pressures, and people are not being listened to in the services inside the hospital, and they must be listened to.
Right, okay.
Board of management needs to be reformed. It's obviously not working. Let's restructure it. Let's get the people working at every level in there to the Board of Management, that they're given authority to make changes on the ground in Letterkenny Hospital to suit and support our community, our team in the hospital, and the potential patients from around Donegal.
Right, so you're asking for an hour from people tomorrow between 1 and 2 at Letterkenny University Hospital to support the staff and to protest the state of the health service. And if you want to bring a placard or something, it's an apolitical protest, Mary T assures us. But if you want to bring a placard to support the nurses or what have you, then you're welcome to do so. Right, we shall see, Mary T. Thanks for your time again this morning. And
I would appreciate you asking Charlie McConlogue when he comes on. He's been invited. Let him come and speak. Let the other deputies come and speak and say what they're going to do. We have a Northwest Regional Health Forum. Our representatives are sitting on it. Our councillors are on it. Why have they not been given the power to make changes?
Are there speeches tomorrow, Mary T? Are there speeches?
They are. Some of them are coming. They have identified they're coming. So hopefully we will hear them.
Who's speaking?
At the moment, I know Jerry McMonigal he's the chair of the Northwest Regional Forum, Health Forum. I understand he has identified that he's coming, and Betty Holmes from the Cancer Action Group is coming, and other councillors have contacted me to say that they're coming.
Right, Mary T, thank you very much for your time. Take care of yourself. Mary T Sweeney, chair of the Letterkenny Hospital Campaign.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
There's still time to experience the unmissable magic of winter in Dublin. Come celebrate our rich culture and heritage this January. Take to the heart of the city for Tradfest Temple Bar, from cosy pub sessions to intimate performances in historical hotspots. Or why not immerse yourself in art and culture at any of Dublin's free national museums? There's so much to see and do this January. Winter in Dublin, it's magic. Make your plans today at visitdublin.com. Brought to you by Fáilte Ireland.
Factory beef prices set to rocket. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Chinese bonuses, tighter supplies and soaring demand are pushing beef prices skywards. Angry suckler farmers have their say in exit schemes. Farmyard thefts off the Richter scale we investigate. Quilcha and Gresham House tell us about their land purchase tactics. The latest land leasing prices. Plus our special on calving cameras, milk replacers and calf feeders.
And don't miss our CAO and College Guide inside this week's Irish Country Living. You cannot afford to miss it.
SuperValue makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, we match Aldi on the products you love, like SuperValue Express Basmati Rice 250 gram, 65 cent. SuperValue Fragrance Baby Wipe 64 piece, 95 cent. 2, get thousands of special offers. And 3, money off vouchers every week on the app. SuperValue makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Around the Northwest with John Breslin will come to you from the Regional Cultural Centre this Friday to mark the launch of Letterkenny Trad Week. Join us for some music and chat with some very special guests. That's Around the Northwest with John Breslin this Friday from 12 noon till 2:30 p.m.
Okie doke, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Right, we're still waiting for response from the Road Safety Authority to a couple of issues we raised with them yesterday. One being someone who was due to go and sit their theory test. They couldn't safely do so because of the snow and ice, but they were told that if they didn't turn up, they'd have to forfeit their fee because Met Éireann hadn't issued a red weather warning. Road Safety Authority saying, if you don't want to lose your money, get out on those dangerous roads. Secondly, we spoke to a gentleman who couldn't go to get his second NCT test because his van failed the first time because the roads were too dangerous, and he now is facing into paying for a full retest as a result. Again, there would have been a bit of lenience if there was a red weather warning. So there's certainly a lack of subtlety there. Right, okay. We're having some success in some areas of that, so I'll update you on that because Caroline's been working away in the background. But anyway, those are the two issues. Right, so let's talk to Susan Gray now, founding member of Park. Good morning to you, Susan. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, now, talking about NCT tests, what we're seeing at the moment is that people are trying to book their tests and getting dates months in advance. Are you saying that if that is the case, then that test should be free?
Well, we looked at the customer charter on the NCT website, and it said that drivers that can't be offered an NCT appointment within 28 days will be provided with a free test. No drivers have been given a free test. We put the information up on Twitter and Facebook, and RT picked up on it. They contacted us last week and they raised the question with the Road Safety Authority, asking them how many people have been given a free test. That due to the fact that RSA couldn't provide a test within 21 days. They asked for figures for 2022 last year. The reply came back, 0 free tests were given out.
But, Susan, I mean, if that is the case, and we've no reason to doubt it, and their charter does state that, that means there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of euro owed to Irish motorists because this money was taken off them in bad faith.
Well, James O'Connor, TD for Fianna Fáil, picked up on it. He was interviewed by RT along with ourselves last Sunday. And on Wednesday, the Dáil resumed. The Oireachtas Transport Committee, which James is a member of, they had a meeting and they decided it was such a serious issue that they would have to invite RSA in next Wednesday to explain why people were not getting the free tests. We've just been told that the RSA has declined the offer to attend. This is such a serious issue.
It really is. How can they refuse to attend?
They've declined what Mr. O'Connor said on Drive Time yesterday. The RSA the Road Safety Authority has declined the request to attend the Oireachtas Transport Committee next week to explain why drivers are being charged for NCT tests when they are waiting for over 28 days for the appointment, especially when the NCT charter states, and I've already told you what it stated. Now, I'm just lost for words, Greg, that they have declined. Now, Mr. O'Connor has urged them to attend the committee at some stage.
Do you think
it would appear, Greg, that The RSA is answerable to nobody.
Do you think they're fit for purpose anymore then, without all of your dealings with them?
No. We had, over the years, our confidence and respect reduced greatly with the Road Safety Authority, especially after Gay Byrne, God rest his soul, and Noel Brett left the RSA.
Mm-hmm.
We worked so well with them, and they called a spade a spade. Now the new Sam Wade in the RSA, he asked us for meetings over the past year. We didn't believe there was any point, but we agreed last February, just a year ago, to have a meeting.
Yes.
We asked him one question, Greg. We've so many outstanding issues. We asked him how many drivers have they got on their ghost file. The ghost file contains drivers where the Road Safety Authority and Transport cannot match a disqualified driver with their licensed driver number. And if they can't marry the person with the licence 100%, they can't input that information onto the transport driver.
Did you get that
file.
figure?
And he said he would, no problem. He understood exactly what we're talking about, and he would get Michael Ronan and RSA to send us the information. We've received no information.
Right.
Now, we are continually advised, for a better word, not to be going to media and not to be raising parliamentary questions.
Who advises you of that?
Well, it was suggested by the RSA, and that to work directly with them to iron out any issues we have. We're back to raising parliamentary questions now through Catherine Murphy, and we've asked...
They try and stifle and mute and cover up the voice of campaign groups. They refuse to go in front of Oireachtas committees. It's quite the charge, isn't it?
Yes, and now Catherine Murphy's not getting replies to her PQs. We've asked through a PQ how many's in the ghost file, how many Irish licence holders are on their ghost file. We've asked how many times with the RSA mismatched, that's a different issue, whereby they allocate a disqualification to a certain person, but they have the wrong licence number.
Okay.
So that person isn't disqualified.
Listen,
we asked them any mismatches. We're not getting information, Greg.
Right, okay.
Where do we go from here?
Well, we'll stay in touch with you. We'll make our own inquiries with them. Thank you very much indeed, Susan Gray, founding member of PARC there. Some more of your comments here. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael has 2 seats in Donegal. They don't care if they're lost because they're only interested in Dublin seats. By doing this repair job in the apartments, they'll pick up 2 seats in Dublin to make up for their losses in Donegal. Mica issue was a problem created by Fianna Fáil with a lack of regulation. We now expect them to fix it. What was done this week is nothing short of scandalous. People of Donegal should not forget this come the next election. But as I say, what most people will do is not vote. Lest the people forget about how the government treatment of the people of Donegal in the West came the next election, we will remind them. Kind regards, Seamus, Newtown, Cunningham. I think maybe... as we approach the next election, a big focus should be try and encourage as many people as possible to vote. Now, not how they might vote. I'm not saying whether they should vote. Of course, I wouldn't say which parties, or no parties for that matter, they should vote. But we need to do something collectively, don't we, to take control so that we can say, right, 75% of us went out and this is what we believe. Maybe that would empower us then to stand up for ourselves a bit more. Now, we're very good at standing up for ourselves, as we saw with the big demonstration in Dublin, but you know what I mean. You know, like if 50, what was the turnout for the last election? I believe it was in the mid-50s. Maybe I'm wrong, because it's hard. I might be mixing up council and general, but I'll get the stats during the break. But, you know, like, so then you say, well, then how many people voted for which parties? And then you find that, you know what, 25% of people will have elected 2 Sinn Féin reps, or 35% of people have elected 2 government reps and an independent. Do you know what I mean? So 35% of the voting population. So we need to get more people voting. We all should be voting.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in the community. Keeping up to date with your recommended vaccines will make sure you have the best possible protection from serious illness. And everyone aged 18 to 49 can now get a second COVID-19 booster vaccine from a HSC vaccination centre or a participating GP or pharmacy. See what vaccines are recommended for you on hsc.ie or call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSC.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why.
The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €30 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Stylish nights and memorable delights await at radsligo.com with our fantastic January sale. Escape it all with 25% off B&B stays and enjoy a well-deserved breakaway. Indulge in afternoon tea overlooking Sligo Bay, relax with a treatment at the spa, enjoy a delicious meal in the Brasserie and Waves Bar, or surround yourself with the best of Sligo's outdoor pursuits right on your doorstep. 25% off sale ends 31st of January. Book now at radsligo.com.
It's where you live. It's where you relax. It's where you make memories. Treat your home to a visit to Cooney's Home Interiors. We have everything in store to help recreate your home. Choose from our extensive range of suites, tables, beds, mattresses and home furnishings for every room. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny. Style and perfection at incredible value.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Salah, Ninnis, the Beatles. You can now fly to Liverpool 8 times a week with Ryanair this summer. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Oh, I'd love to see Ireland West Airport. A mostly dry day with sunny spells, preferably in the rearview wing mirror. It's beautiful, it's quick, but just to be getting away. A mostly dry day with sunny spells, developing, though cloud will increase by evening. Remaining chilly in the north with highest temperatures 3 to 5 degrees in light south east breezes. Good morning, Minister Charlie McConalogue, Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, okay. So, do you think what was your emotions or feelings around the cabinet table when you heard this 100% redress scheme with, you know, money for people who'd already done repairs up to a certain standard to be made available to them? Everything that you perhaps were arguing around the ministerial table for your own constituency. What was your feelings on the day when this was greenlit and agreed by government? 2.5 billion. Not a complaint to be had from anyone affected by these faults in these apartments. How did it make you feel?
Well, it's important that there is a scheme to support people who are living in multi-unit developments, apartments and duplexes, for example, who have either defective either water ingress or fire issues or mica or pyrite in those apartments to have them fixed. And it's really important as well, and the approach the government has taken is about being equitable and treating similarly what has been provided really importantly in Donegal and Mayo and in those 4 counties, but particularly our own county, that will be actively treated with others as well. So, and really importantly, obviously, the MICA scheme doesn't apply to apartments or duplexes. So there was a gap there in our own county in relation to those who are living in apartments not having a scheme which will cover them. So this scheme now, which will apply all across the country, will mean that people in Donegal who are living in apartments will be able to get, and that have MICA, will be able to get their apartment fixed under this scheme.
Do you accept that this scheme announced during the week is a better scheme than the scheme that was announced for Donegal and other counties? I think it's as similar as it possibly can be. I think the main distinction is in relation to the retrospective aspect. So, well, it's also 100%, Minister, with respect. This scheme is 100% for Dublin. So like with the MICA scheme, in relation to this particular apartment scheme, it is to fix to the standard that would have been applying at the time. So if the apartment was built in 2002 or 2005, what the scheme does is it fixes and covers the cost of fixing it
to what would have applied at the time the apartment was built. So it's the same principle as there in relation to the MICA. The one significant difference, and it's a welcome one because it's one which I had fought for previously and one which I've now secured a commitment that will apply to MICA as well, is in relation to the retrospective aspect. So we had a number of properties, and many of which I would have dealt with when I was in opposition, who weren't able to wait for the scheme to come into place and had to go ahead and do their work. So now in relation to the apartment scheme has come forward, there is the retrospective element to that. And at Cabinet on Wednesday, I secured the commitment that will also apply in relation to MICA. So similar treatment in relation to the terms and conditions that will be applying to apartments for retrospective, that will also be applied in relation to the MICA scheme. So that's an important and welcome step forward.
And I mean, is that out in the public domain?
Before the scheme was launched.
Are people aware of that, or have you just announced that, or is that the retrospective element of this will apply to defective concrete block?
Well, I think that the Taoiseach in the Dáil yesterday made a response outlining that, and I'm clarifying it to you here as well.
Okay.
That's something I secured and ensured was the case at Cabinet. So
how is it?
So overall,
let me ask you though, Minister.
Just put a little bit, Greg, just to finish.
Understood.
So the key principles here in relation to this defective scheme, and in fairness, lots of the work that was done in relation to securing, the terms and conditions that we have for the MICA scheme has been applied similarly now to the defective apartment scheme. And the one key difference, particular difference in relation to retrospection, thankfully now we also have that for them. We'll also have that for the MICA scheme. So, but in terms of the government approach here, it is about ensuring that all of those who find themselves in, and which we know better than anyone in this county, very difficult circumstances in relation to having a home which is not what it should have been, get the support in relation to actually having them fixed.
So, you are satisfied, and this is your actual opinion, that the people of Donegal, let's just, because we're in Donegal, so we'll talk about Donegal. So you are of the belief, the actual opinion, you believe this, that the people of Donegal are being given equal treatment to the people under the apartment scheme. You will argue that this is equally fair to both sets of people.
Well, the apartment scheme, first of all, and this is really important, and I'm not sure anyone's really mentioning this, the scheme that went through Cabinet on Wednesday applies to Donegal as well.
No, you've said that already, but I'm asking you if you actually believe that the people of Donegal are being treated equally to primarily the people in Dublin under the apartment scheme. It's a simple question. Do you believe there's equality there?
The same principles that we all fought hard for to get in relation to the MICA scheme, Greg, those same principles now are informing the apartment scheme. Obviously, there is differences in relation to how the apartment schemes can be managed compared to individual homes. So the grant will go to the management company, which is instead of the homeowner.
Understood. So, but the workings we don't really need to talk about the workings.
In relation, and the principle then is about fixing it to the standard it should have been at the time. So in relation to whenever the apartment was actually put in place, it's about fixing the defect that was there to the standard that should have been the standard whenever the apartment was built. So again, that's the same principle.
Okay. Now, in terms of the cost,
the key change.
Yes.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
In terms of the costs, right? Your constituencies, your neighbours, your friends, cannot go on this scheme because they can't find 40 or 50,000 euro. There's older people who cannot go on this scheme because they can't get access to borrowing. There's young children in homes in your constituency, they're your neighbours and friends, that can't get out of houses with black mould in them that's killing their children or seriously damaging their children's health over the long term. We have people that are no longer with us because they couldn't take the mental pressure of the situation they're in. That's the scheme that you're defending in Donegal. In Dublin, primarily, they are getting, and some of them won't even have to worry about it because the management will worry about it. They're getting 100% redress. How can you come on and defend that? Honestly, and I mean that.
But I'm not sure if you've been listening to me there, Greg. The principle is the same. It's to fix it to the standard that would have been in place at the time the apartment was built. And likewise, that's the principle that was established in relation to the MICA scheme.
What caps on it?
So obviously, when you come to apartment blocks, it's a different situation.
How is it?
Either all of it has to be done or none of it has to be done. So obviously, we're expecting the estimate is maybe potentially 100,000 properties. Will have some level of defect. the average expected cost for the scheme is €25,000. But of course, the actual actual multi-unit developments which are likely to have the higher cost and have a higher cost than what that average would be of 25,000 is likely to be those that either have mica or pyrite, because the level of damage, obviously, as we know, in mica
and is there a cap on that?
Is way more. So potentially, for example, you could have to demolish a multi-unit apartment block, and it's in those instances where you'd actually have where the biggest cost would be incurred.
Yeah, but what's the cap on? What is the cap on it? What's the cap on the scheme?
So, well, I mean, the thing was that, let's say if an apartment block has mica, and it really only be in the case of mica or pyrite this would happen. If the apartment block has mica and it's so bad that it's not possible to be remediated, then it would have to be actually tossed and rebuilt. So either you do that or either you don't do that.
Okay.
There's no half rebuilding an apartment block, and the
That's
only
the same with the house in Donegal. So where is the cap?
Yes,
where is the cap on this? For apartment block owners.
If there's a multi-unit, I mean, and as I say, this would be specifically in my view, the only circumstance I see this is really where it's mica or pyrite. So if it's where it's mica or pyrite, if there's an apartment block that has to be, or a multi-unit complex which has to be demolished in Donegal, I want to see it rebuilt. I don't want to see it in a situation where there's a cap there, which would mean that all of those units wouldn't be able to be done.
Where is the cap? So there's no. So you think it's okay, right? That everyone here has been wronged the same way. A lack of regulation, lack of oversight, lack of enforcement, all as a responsibility of local authorities, the government. None of it, right? Why are some people in this country, the closer they live to Leo Varadkar and the rest of them, why are they getting their apartments fixed retrospectively, and why then are people in Donegal, your backyard, not able to get their houses fixed? Yep.
So no, listen. I mean, again, as I say, look, I mean, in Dublin, the defects seem to be primarily fire defects or water ingress, so they're fixable. The average cost is expected to be €25,000.
Why do you keep mentioning the cost, Minister?
No, because I'm bringing it back to our own situation, but because the scheme also covers mica or pyrite. And in that instance, obviously, you could have to have a whole apartment block demolished, or a multi-unit or duplexes in Donegal, for example, demolished if it has mica. So therefore, it's important that actually, and I think it would be rare to see, for me to argue against actually, or to argue in favour of putting a cap in place, which would mean
No. We want you to argue. No. We want you to argue to get rid of the cap up here.
This scheme actually covers mica and pyrite homes properly, so that any apartments or any duplexes we have in Donegal, that they're fully fixed under this scheme, because the current mica scheme doesn't apply where it's multi-unit.
So you're standing over this government decision. You back this government decision. You think it's equal to the people primarily of Dublin, the vulture funds, the foreign investors. You think this is fair? You think the people of Donegal are being...
As I've explained, Greg, it's the same principle.
So it's fair.
The one key change, which I welcome, I also secured that key change to apply to the mica scheme. So that that retrospective will also apply to the mica scheme. So listen,
I just want you to tell me, Minister. I want you to tell me, please, rather than just referencing back to the principle, if you don't mind. If you don't want to, that's fine. I can't compel you to do anything. I'm just asking you to answer me this question: do you believe that this is fair? Do you believe the people of Donegal are being treated the same as the people in Dublin primarily who own these apartment blocks? I'm just asking you if you think it's equal and if it's fair.
It's the same. The approach for the government is to be equitable in both situations.
And you believe they've achieved that?
The precedent that we set, and we fought hard, the homeowners fought hard, I fought hard at Cabinet. The precedent we set and established in relation to mica is now being applied as well in relation to the defective apartments. The one key progress we've made, which was really important, was the retrospective, and that's going to be, and the security cabinet, that will be applied to mica as well in the same way it is applied to defective apartment blocks. So now, in relation to the defective apartment block, what will happen there now is primary legislation will have to be introduced over the course of this year to enable that, in the same way that we introduced legislation last July, to
will there
enable
be pre-legislative scrutiny, do you think?
I would expect you'll have a similar process to what happened in relation.
I'll tell you. I'll clip this. I'll clip this, and we'll come back to that statement.
Yeah, well, that'll be a matter for the Dáil to decide. But I suppose the key thing is a lot of the principles are established because of the MICA scheme and the fact that legislation is in place. So the defective apartment blocks now are behind, obviously, a year and a half behind where the MICA scheme was at, because that legislation will have to be introduced over the course of this year. It's expected to be the latter part of the year when the legislation comes through. So my key focus in the meantime now is making sure that we drive on and implement the MICA scheme. We've made real progress in that. Just let me finish, Greg, please. We've made real progress in that over the course of the autumn. I've been meeting on a monthly basis with the county council, with my own team of county councillors, to unlock the challenges that were there in relation to getting answers once again in applications. Thankfully, over the last couple of months, homeowners have been getting answers so that they can get engaged with contractors and get them employed. Also, now the regulations were provided to the local authorities just before Christmas for their feedback. That'll be provided then, following on from that, to homeowners for their feedback as well, to actually do the transition, and everybody who's currently progressing in the scheme will get the full benefit of those regulations and that increased costings whenever those regulations come into place. So listen, I continue to work hard, and this is the number one priority for me, and we're making real progress, and equity is central. And as I say, in relation to the retrospective piece, which is the key difference, I secured that at Cabinet on Wednesday, that will apply to MICA as well.
All right, thanks for your time this morning. Take care of yourself. That's Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConnell-Logue.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features, delivered with the same local trustworthy service of your credit union.
If you have magic moments or great memories sitting on your phone or in the cloud, have them printed at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Get larger 7x5 prints for the same as 6x4s. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed and digitalised. Use the in-store kiosk. Download the McGee's Photo Prints app or visit mcgees.ie. Photos printed instantly, within an hour, or in by 10, ready by 5. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
We can all see how conflict affects energy supply and prices. More than ever, we need to be mindful of how we use energy. By reducing your use, you can save money and lessen the impact. Here's how. Only heat your home to the temperature you need. Use appliances efficiently. And where possible, outside the peak hours of 4 to 7 p.m. Consider walking, cycling, or public transport for short journeys. Drive at lower speeds where safe to do so. Government advice and supports are available for homes and businesses to help you meet this challenge. Find out more at gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Donegal Denture Clinic, Letterkenny. Denture problems? We can help. At Donegal Denture Clinic, we customise, personalise and tailor your dentures to suit you. Call us for a free consultation on 91 25 25 3. Find us at Ballyrain, Letterkenny, beside Rossin College. Medical cards welcome. For all your denture needs, call Donegal Denture Clinic on 91 25 25 3. Online at donegaldentureclinic.ie.
The massive January sale is now on at Patterson's Kitchen, the Hall Lifford. Massive savings on kitchens, beds, sofas, dining sets and giftware, with up to 50% off selected mattresses. Hundreds of products in stock and ready for delivery or collection. Open Monday to Saturday 9 a.m. till 5:30 p.m. Get yourself down to Patterson's massive January sale.
This January, staying in is the new going out. At Kelly's Centre Mountaintop, we've mega deals in fresh, healthy, ready meals range, with great deals in our award-winning off-licence and winning offers in fresh meat and produce. Kelly's Centre Mountaintop, 2022 winner of the National Forecourt Retailer of the Year.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock. Michael and Fionnuala on the way, but let's get a news update first and say good morning to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. For the second day in a row, there has been a big decrease in the number of people awaiting beds at Letterkenny University Hospital. There are currently 20 people in trolleys, 8 in the emergency department and 12 on wards elsewhere. Yesterday, there was 35 people awaiting trolleys at Letterkenny University Hospital, a drop of 15 today. The HSE is reporting a drop in the numbers of people presenting with respiratory infections. Nationally, there were 1,836 new confirmed COVID-19 cases reported during week 2 of 2023. This is a decrease of 47.2% compared to 3,474 confirmed COVID-19 cases notified last week. 105 cases of COVID-19 were reported in Donegal last week. The organisers of a National Day of Action against hospital overcrowding are urging people to turn out for a demonstration outside Letterkenny University Hospital tomorrow. The event at 1 o'clock is one of over 20 simultaneous protests taking place outside acute hospitals. Local organisers Mary T. Sweeney says one of the key issues being highlighted is the fact that staff at hospitals are not being listened to. Questions have been asked about the possibility of an early general election, but leader of the Shannon Fianna Fáil Senator Lisa Chambers said this morning poured cold water on that suggestion. Speaking on this morning's 9 to Noon show, Senator Chambers said there is widespread feeling that autumn next year is the most likely time for an election, and that is a view she shares. Last night seen another deadline for the restoration of power sharing in the North pass without a deal. Technically, that should trigger fresh elections. However, Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris says he won't set a date just yet. Party leader Doug Beattie MC MLA says he urged the UK government to resist settling on a deal to conclude negotiations, but to ensure the protocol is replaced with something that will protect Northern Ireland's place in the UK internal market. Finally, a local councillor believes the reintroduction of flights to Glasgow or Edinburgh from Donegal Airport is vital for the country's tourism. Sinn Féin councillor John Seamus O'Farry says the reintroduction of flights from Donegal Airport would be extremely beneficial to the county's tourism and economy, while it would also benefit local students travelling to either location. He believes steps should be taken to explore potential opportunities to find a new airline to provide the flights. That's the headlines. Back with news again at 12 noon.
Okay, Donna Marie, thank you very much indeed.
Here's another amazing Aldi offer. Our Grow with Aldi programme in association with Board Bia is now in its 6th year. It offers upcoming Irish producers the opportunity to supply Aldi stores nationwide. It's great news for our customers too, because they get to support local Irish suppliers and businesses. If you've got a product you want to tell the whole country about, apply now and find out more at aldi.ie/grow. Applications close 30th of January. Aldi, everyday Irish, everyday amazing.
Okay, thanks to all of you who have been messaging in and texting in as it relates to the last hour on our interview with the Minister there. It is a topic, of course, that we're going to be returning to on Monday. It's time to switch gears a little bit. It's been a heavy, stressful week, so we're going to ease you into the weekend here now in the company of Michael Leddy, writer and blogger. Good morning to you, Michael Leddy,
Good
writer
morning.
and blogger. And Fionnuala Rabbit.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. See you as well.
Very good now, bar. I'm freezing.
Yes, not in here though.
No, not in here. Just, well, to be honest, I haven't. Well, some part of me thinks I haven't been warm since 2014, since I moved up here. But this week is definitely testing me.
And come here, Michael, as a walker, you probably haven't left the house this week, have you?
Yeah, there's been days where I just didn't. If I didn't have to leave for a genuine reason, if I had everything in, I stayed in. So, yeah, there was a couple of days I just stayed in. It's footpaths. The footpaths up with me were up in Glencar direction. Would be the.
I saw a person out doing footpaths in Donegal town around the schools. Handy enough. I don't know why they don't do it around the big towns, particularly. It's not, it's a tractor with sort of like a fertilizer spreader. They target it onto the footpath, bomb up and down. It doesn't take any time at all.
Yeah,
gets the job done. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. Getting in and out of my estate now this morning was just treacherous.
Oh, yeah,
because it's just frozen. Like
I know. Saw the line of traffic trying to get out of your estate.
Yeah.
After visiting you over the last few days.
Well, yesterday
it's like driving on glass.
Smart TV.
In my estate, for the first time ever, I seen a car virtually almost do a full 360. Somebody at low speed was coming into the estate and it just kept going, and there was no way to control.
I've been in a car when that's happened at low speed, thankfully. But it's the lack of control is shocking.
Yeah, it's surreal to watch.
Yeah,
I wasn't quite close. Like, I wasn't that close, but I was like, that's mad.
I watch a lot of those videos on TikTok. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, yeah.
I really do.
Do you watch the Russian?
Don't bother with Twitter anymore. It's just TikTok now.
Do you ever watch the Russian
my sanity
dash cam footage? Do you ever watch those?
No.
Watch them. They're crazy. Like,
I don't want to see anyone crashing.
Well,
I don't want to see anyone crashing or motorbikes going into the back of cars or anything.
No, it's not usually that.
Cars sliding around and a bit of bumper to bumper action. I'm
That's
good
what
with
you're
that.
for,
yeah,
right?
But I don't want to see any
serious.
I'm too soft. I finished Welcome to the Chippendales last night on Disney Plus. So interested to get your assessment of it, Fionnuala.
Oh, well,
it's on your list.
Yeah, no, it is on my list, but I haven't actually gotten as far as the end of it yet. I've watched the first 3 or so of it. I really like it because I think it's one of those stories that, I mean, if you liked Pam and Tommy, you're going to like this because it's very much in this,
similar.
very much in that kind of vein. Kind of done in a gritty sort of a way. There's a gritty sort of a feel to it that you kind of feel a little bit icky, I thought, when you're kind of watching some of it. Like, as in, the same with the Pam and Tommy, you just kind of felt a bit voyeuristic or something watching it. So it has that gritty sort of a feel to it, which I suppose is supposed to be harking back to the time in which it was set up. It's a story that I knew nothing about.
That's it, and that's the difficulty with us discussing it, because I was lucky that I knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to discuss it without kind of... Is it?
Well, I think so.
Away?
I think it's hard to talk about it without spoiling it too much for people, because I think the majority of people wouldn't know the story behind it. I mean, like, if you asked me anything about the Chippendales, I would have assumed that it was either like a Hugh Hefner-esque person that was behind it, or that it was like one of those guys in England that, you know, in the 80s and 90s set up boy bands.
Yeah.
You know, the way
Peter
that
Stringfellow or something.
that type of a person that kind of went, oh, here's something.
But it wasn't. It was an Indian immigrant.
It was an Indian immigrant who'd just been in the country that worked in petrol stations, and he worked in a petrol station and just saved up all his money, and he decided that he wanted to start a club, and he felt that this was the way to go. But being somebody who was very smart but didn't really understand the culture, he started doing some research, and he realised that at this time in America, millions and millions of people were playing backgammon, and he felt that the way to go was to set up a backgammon nightclub where people would come and play backgammon at all hours of the day and night.
For some reason, it didn't
Shockingly,
work.
it did not work for him. And then it just moves in different directions as to where it eventually evolves into the Chippendales.
I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the impression I got from it is that he never had a unique idea of his own. And also, he wasn't a very good businessman. Incredibly successful, but I'm thinking over all the episodes. Now, this is a representation of the man. I don't recall him making one solid good decision.
The original decision was his decision.
But was it he?
Yes, it was him that. Well, according to
yes, of course. Now I remember
he
the
did
scene.
come up with the original decision, and I will totally give him that. But I don't disagree with you.
Bar, didn't he? That's right.
I don't disagree with you about his natural business ability. I think he probably did have, as in he was a smart guy, and you know what I mean, he had saved his money and he had done this and he knew there was space for it. But then I think he was way too open and trusting, because he just had this picture in his head of who he wanted to become, and he didn't really know how to get there. So when people came into his life that in any way seemed to be able to help him, I mean, at one point he's handing out percentages that you're like, I'm sorry, has he sat down and actually added up how much he's giving away of this thing? You know, and when you're in, I know maybe I'm being wrong, but if you were to mention to me like nightclubs back in that time in America, from my TV watching alone, you would assume it's kind of a shady business.
Yeah,
you know the way,
yeah.
as in like you think about any of the TV you watch, there was a lot of shady stuff going on, and he kind of got caught in that.
Also, too, I was watching it thinking, thank God I don't really have anything, you know, because the more success you seem to accumulate, the more money you seem to accumulate. Not for everyone, of course, but in a lot of these types of stories, nothing was ever enough for him. It was ego.
It was,
and there was jealousy. I mean, a lot of what happened that was driven by he just wanted more. He could not be content or satisfied with what he had. Now, obviously, he'd made some silly decisions and that was eating away at him. But he went from a normal person into someone whose life was effectively destroyed by money and success, or at least the seeking to attain that.
Yeah, I think that's it. But I think as well, one of the things that that I felt in it as well is that, there's kind of like that tone of underlying racism as well. You have this Indian guy, he's over there, and I'm saying Indian, I'm not even 100% sure.
He's Indian,
but he's over there, he started this thing, he spoke differently, he had an accent, as one would call it. Now, obviously, I totally assume that they've exaggerated it in this show because they tend to do that based on the Pam and Tommy kind of thing. But he did seem to speak with an accent, that kind of thing, and I think maybe that was also part of it. When you saw him in the shop and that kind of thing, when he started off working in the petrol station, you could kind of get the feeling that that was what was going on.
But he himself should have known better, and the story also relates the fact that he wasn't afraid to racial profile people in the interests of making money. And he
got caught up in the American dream, and
exactly. It turned into the American nightmare.
Yeah,
and also I think it's a good show. It's not too long. The episodes aren't too long, and I think lots of people who like lots of different shows will enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of a good show. For a couple or something.
I agree, because I think there's bits of it in it that you're like going, God, as I said, I don't think many people know this story because, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I pride myself in knowing a lot of scandal
about the Chippendales.
Well, no, but Hollywood and sort of California scandal. And I can't believe that I didn't know any of these details whatsoever. That it never come up in.
For those who aren't familiar with it, the Chippendales are a male strip troupe. But they were part of popular culture over here. I do remember pullouts in newspapers and stuff, and I remember the collars. You'd see it in the tabloids. I do remember.
Yeah, the collars and cuffs.
So we probably should have learned of the dodgy dealings.
And not only that, but they're in the zeitgeist. I think I would say that 90% of people in this country did know the story of the Chippendales, but I would say 99% of the people in this country, if you say the word Chippendale, does not automatically think of furniture in 17th century, whatever century England. They automatically think
more chance of going to see the Chippendales though than owning a Chippendale piece of furniture.
But I just think that would be where people's minds go, directly to the troop. So it's just amazing to me that such a big. Wrongly, because obviously people's lives are right, but a big juicy story like this was in the background and that we didn't know anything about it.
And Salman Banjari, Steve Banjari's son now, is a 33-year-old stripper with his own stripping troupe called Strippendales.
Oh.
So what will you give it out of 10? It's on Disney Plus. And
yeah, I have to say I'm really liking it. I would definitely give it a solid 8.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in it. It's kind of a bit gritty. Which is again the Pam and Tommy thing that kind of felt a little bit sometimes watching it.
Yeah,
but it's definitely worth sitting down and watching it. As you say, it'll appeal to a lot of different people because there's people that'll just go for the actual story. There's people that'll go for the kind of gossipy bit of it because, as with Pam and Tommy, you kind of forget some of the cultural stuff that was happening around that time as well, and how this impacted that. So there's lots of different kind of areas with it that's not just about sitting there,
Okay, I'm going to go 7.5 just because there's other stuff I've given that's slightly better at 8. Recommend the playlist on Netflix, says a listener. It's a series based on Spotify, a Scandinavian program about a coder that's a real whiz kid who with a partner starts the streaming service. So interesting, loved it. Something very different, very good drama. I would like that because I love The Social Network, so I imagine I would like that too. Watch the first 3 episodes of The Rig. Still undecided if I'll be going back to it, even with some of the big names in it. Okay, we're going to be getting Michael's views on that very shortly. And anything else you've been watching, let us know what you thought of Welcome to the Chippendales. 08660 25,000 if indeed you did watch it, or if you plan to watch it, or indeed The Rig, or any of the other shows, or whatever you're watching. A lot of people, majority of people, back watching Dancing on Ice. Do you know what I mean? That's an interesting enough show.
I used to love that.
I watched.
I was doing that today on the way walking up here.
I hope you did a lift
with not quite as much grace as we might see on a Sunday.
Maybe not quite.
Legs akimbo.
I just always said.
Although there was a bit of controversy about one of the outfits one of the girls was wearing on it, I didn't think. Apparently, hundreds of people
thought it was too skimpy.
One of the girls had a Love Island, yeah, but I mean, she's wearing.
Gosh, what episode is this? Last Sunday?
First
episode. Is it on the player?
When they were all on the player, but they were always wearing kind of skimpy stuff.
I haven't seen enough of it to.
But you watch,
to judge previous.
But if you ever watch the skating, anyways, in the Olympics or any of that kind of stuff, which I have to say is so worth watching, they're always wearing kind of like swathes of it, because you
see more on the gymnastics floor. I mean, I just think people
it's just
want
like
to
in between things, because in between the spots where you think you're seeing skin, you're not seeing skin.
Yeah,
it's actually.
exactly, yeah.
Flesh-coloured material.
That's all it was. There's not a pic of her skin. There wasn't a pic of her skin on show. It was all, and it wasn't even flesh. Actually, it was darker than that. So it's very clear she was clothed.
Yeah, it's just normally that's what it is. It's like kind of a dark brown.
I think people also, and when you see who's voted off first on shows, often if a woman's good looking, is that controversial? She seems to not hang around very long. I don't know why that is.
It's because most people that vote are young girls.
But why would you vote a good-looking girl off if you're a young girl?
Well, because I think that's just the thing. Your vote tends to go towards the men, towards the boys, or to whoever's. Like, there's bound to be two or three lads from Hollyoaks, or there's somebody from. You know what I mean? There's a couple of young guys from different things in it, and that's usually. Well, you find that with any of that Love Island, any of those things.
I just can't believe that hundreds of people sat there on Sunday night. I'll tell you one thing. I don't like what she's wearing. Get me an email address. I just don't. That's kind of a Yorkshire accent, I think.
Bit Yorkshire.
I don't think it's.
Glad you told me what it was.
But I'm sending a strongly worded email.
It's definitely you're definitely trying to do Northern England there.
Right, okay. Come here. Let's take a break. We'll come back with The Rig from. Sorry, Michael. I'm going to do the courtesy. Have you watched Welcome to the Chippendales? I know you're likely to watch.
Not likely at all. It doesn't interest.
I know you too well.
Doesn't interest me, and I'm watching about 20-25 shows a week at the moment. I'd have to stop watching a show. I'm like,
this is no good. That's I don't.
Doesn't interest me.
But I don't think you're enjoying watching television.
I'm loving it.
No, it's a schedule. It's too much to work.
But I get it's just easy.
What happens? I just lose interest in something and stop watching it. I couldn't keep track.
No, I like the routine of knowing that tonight I'll watch an episode of Cardinal and tonight I'll watch an episode of Fargo, and they're great. And last night was Slow Horses, and The Bear is the best thing on TV right now. I say it. I raved about it a couple of weeks ago.
Okay,
I raved about it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah,
that's the half-hour Canadian thing, is it?
It's incredible. No, it's not Canadian.
Chef.
It's about a chef.
Oh, the chef thing. Yes,
and it's stunning.
Anyone else out watching The Bear? 08660 25,000. Now, just to let you know that. John Breslin's broadcasting live from the Regional Cultural Centre in Letterkenny as part of the Trad Week, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be a really entertaining show. And just before the break, could you please wish my great friend and neighbour, Mary McMenamin from Glencovert Ballybofey, a very happy 100th birthday for today. Well done, Mary, and hope you have a great day from Kathleen Doherty, Carn Ballybofey. And may I say, Mary, on behalf of all of us here at Highland Radio and all of our listeners, a very, very happy 100th birthday to you.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
I think he enjoys the visits and calls. At the start he was a bit quiet, but I soon got him going. And so now we talk about all sorts, and he knows I'll help him out with a bit of advice when he needs it. I often say to him, isn't it lucky you started volunteering with a loan? Otherwise you never would have met me.
It feels amazing to make someone feel amazing. Volunteer with a loan. Find out more at alone.ie/volunteer.
Factory beef prices set to rocket. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Chinese bonuses, tighter supplies and soaring demand are pushing beef prices skywards. Angry suckler farmers have their say in exit schemes. Farmyard thefts off the Richter scale we investigate. Quilcha and Gresham House tell us about their land purchase tactics. The latest land leasing prices. Plus our special on calving cameras, milk replacers and calf feeders.
And don't miss our CAO and college guide inside this week's Irish Country Living. You cannot afford to miss it.
I've lost my car keys. Lost my car once in a multi-story. Lost my patience. My hair? Lost that a while back. But this week, I found things I thought had gone forever. The crackle of needle on vinyl. Leaves, crunching. I found them all at Specsavers. I got free hearing aids with PRSI. And now those sounds are back. So's my joie de vivre. Still can't find those keys, though.
Book a free hearing test today. Terms and conditions apply. See our website for details.
Around the Northwest with John Breslin will come to you from the Regional Cultural Centre this Friday to mark the launch of Letterkenny Trad Week. Join us for some music and chat with some very special guests. That's Around the Northwest with John Breslin this Friday from 12 noon till 2:30 p.m. Next week on Highland Radio, we'll be launching an exciting new series called Clár sa Car.
Gath Modinja March, we'll be joining Colm and Sophie for some Cora agus crack on the school run. Agus by Jeshigov were couple of Fakala Usaj. So Beagie Lane, Modinja March and Shaw or Highland Radio.
Clár sa Car, Air Highland Radio is funded by the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland with a television licence fee.
Okay, welcome back to the programme. More from Michael and Fanula and Non, but first we say hello to Louise Conahan. Good morning, Louise. How are you getting on?
I'm good, Greg. How are you doing?
Good. It's great to have you on the programme. Right, tonight, January 20th, 8 p.m, you are in Jimmy's Winning Matches. Is this the first show or the second week of shows? This is the first show, is it?
Tonight will be the second show. We had a show last night, but it was kind of a sparse audience due to the weather.
Yeah, well, fair play to you for going on, because actually there would have been a really strong argument for not. So you're going to have even more demand then over the next two nights. Tonight at 8 p.m, tomorrow night, Saturday the 21st at 8 p.m, and hopefully things will be certainly much safer for tomorrow, and I imagine much more safer for this evening in terms of getting out on the road. So tell us the story that you... is it you on your own on stage, Louise, or is there...
Yeah, no, it's me, my own. It's a one-woman show, and it's called Jimmy's Winning Matches. So as you can imagine, it's about Donegal football. And it starts off on Hill 16, and then we capture that moment, you know, that great moment in 2012 where Lacey gets the ball and passes it across to Murphy, and Murphy gets the goal. So the whole story of the play is based, the whole world of the play is based in between those 2 points. So it's really kind of like a snapshot in time, and it kind of it's looking at that, and it goes back over the character's life and various points in her life in between the 1992 and 2012.
Yeah, and that's a mixed bag of memories.
Yeah, very much so, mixed bag. So it goes through this the character's lifetime, and it deals with grief. It deals with lots of different things there. I compare it to when you tune into Highland Radio in the morning there, and you can hear all the different stories of things that are going on in Donegal at any one time, and it goes through her life, and it's a very it's one of those things that deals with a lot of issues. And if you ask somebody to write a play about Cancer Bus, about Donegal football, about female football, about the female story in Donegal, about the roads and everything else, so you would look at them and go, absolutely not, there's no way. But this play really, really encapsulates all that.
So this is like a moment in time almost where your life flashes before your eyes. It could have been done in a number of different scenarios. Why choose the football? Why choose this moment to sort of frame this story, or to set this story within?
Well, you'll have to talk to Kieran Kelly about that, because he's a wonderful scriptwriter.
Have you not asked him? Have you not cared?
Kieran can always put the things a lot better than I can. I can recite his words, but no. I suppose for Kieran, it was the relationship that he had with football and the relationship it had with his own life. For me, growing up, I was somebody who attended the matches, and it might not necessarily have been for the football, but it was a very social event, and it was a beautiful community thing. And I think Donegal football, I think this county is very passionate about sport. And I think it's the GAA is a massive contributor in terms of community.
And I think too, the football is a good way to timeline the character's life as well, isn't it? Because I think we can all probably remember whichever team we support, where we were through the happiness and through the heartbreak, be it at club level or at county level or at junior level or whatever it means. It's a little bit like music and smell, isn't it? It's GEA is so sort of intertwined with our lives. It's really quite a nice way of timelining someone's life experiences.
Yeah, and it shows all the highs and lows, and it actually comes in at 70 minutes, which is a happy coincidence, but it comes
no
in
extra time.
Yeah, I hope not.
All right,
Maybe
come here.
gets involved,
And I don't think the ref blows the whistle early anymore now, like they might have in the past. And Louise, from your perspective as an actor, I don't know if you've done a one-woman act before. I suppose maybe you don't have to rely on anyone else, so there's comfort in that, but also all eyes are on you as well. So I imagine there's a range of emotions there when taking on a role like this.
Yes, well, Greg, I had been a theatre actor for years, and then just before COVID, I don't know if anybody remembers, Manny Mann does the History of Ireland on stage. So myself and John Ruddy were in that, and that was a two-hander, and it was a fantastic piece, but it was very text-heavy in that. But I started kind of having a few difficulties with learning lines and things like that, so I really lost confidence, and I had stopped doing theatre shows nearly altogether, except for pieces that I wrote myself, because there's something very handy about when you write a show yourself. If you go wrong, you can redirect it.
But I can feel you. Like, I am so happy sitting in this environment where I've got control over everything. Right, but if I were to try and present this show with somebody else pushing the buttons and what have you, it would cause great anxiety, and we might as well just put that word, because that's exactly what it would be. But in this situation, I feel like I have that sort of control. Is that sort of in the same space with you, that maybe because they were your words that you had?
Yeah, well, there was that, but as well as that, I do a lot of street theatre, so I'm not really dependent on other people. So theatre's a very, very collaborative expression. There's so much. You've got the lighting tech, you've got the stage manager. You've got Niall and Jude in there. The team in Greenan are absolutely fantastic. And a theatre show, if it's a one-woman show, never ever be fooled by that, because there is a massive team behind you.
Yeah.
Down to the neighbours that dig you out in the morning to get you on the road. There's loads of people behind it. So it's never a one-woman show. Yeah, whenever you're up there, you're on your own, but you're not really, because you've got the lights and the sound. And
well, if it goes really well, I would say yes, it's a one-man show. And if it tanks, I'd go, well, hey, there's a whole team here. I'm on it. But the one thing, you don't have to worry about that second scenario, because I've heard great things about it already. We're going to hear more from Michael now. The show's on tonight at 8 p.m. It's on tomorrow night at 8 p.m. again. Tickets €18. Presented by Greenan Theatre Productions. Louise Conahan is on stage. You heard Kieran Kelly, the writer, reference there, and Patrick McBurty. I presume it's not the footballer. Is the director. Okay, so I was going to say that would
he's top of his game as director as well.
Captaining the team, directing you. I mean, his hands would be full. But listen, this is the type of thing too. Do you hope to tour with this?
Well, there's always a hope. Whenever you start out with everything, you're always thinking America. No,
New York.
No, you always hope that something will go further.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you do this in Mayo, do you think the intention would be, if you spitballed it, that you would sort of do it as a Mayo fan? Or if you were in New York, would it be the New York Gales? Or will this always be Jimmy's winning matches? Because if it were in Mayo, we'd have a slight problem there. It would be Mayo not winning finals. But anyway.
The thing about this story is, yes, it's called Jimmy's Winning Matches, and yes, it's got a Donegal football jersey in the front of it and all, but this is about a story about Donegal, and it's a very human story. It's talking about a father-daughter relationship. You're talking about grief. It's a universal story, and yes, it does have Donegal written all over it, but it's not just that. But the thing about it is, it's a love letter to Donegal and to Donegal GAA.
And I try and avoid sort of giving too much away, but I gather that people who've lived a life, this will be relatable to the emotions and the heartaches and your successes and all of that. It's relatable, and that's how good theatre works, isn't it? Louise, listen, best of luck with it tonight and tomorrow night. Get your tickets by calling the box office at On Green On. It's been lovely having you on the programme. Thank you so very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Greg.
Bye-bye. See you, Louise. That's Louise Conahan there. Did you get along to see it last night, or are you still previewing it for us? Okay.
See it, yeah.
Loved it.
Loved it. Louise is amazing on stage. Anyone who saw her in Manny Man, she's electric, she's magnetic, she's perfect for a one-woman show. She morphs effortlessly from one character to the next. Loved it. There's some nice technical stuff as well. There's some nice... I won't spoil it, but there's also a technical aspect to the show that's very slick. We're downstairs chatting with one of the lads in the group about that. We're saying, like, if it's that slick on the first night, like, how slick is it going to be on the second and third night? It was very good. For me, when I watch a TV show, when I read a comic book, when I see a film, I want a story. There's a really strong story at the core of this. It's about that woman. Doesn't matter if you are very knowledgeable on the GAA over those 20 years, 92 to 2012, or not. There's still a strong story there. Obviously, if you are invested and you know this, you get all the signposts. But it tells the story of this woman. You leave the theatre almost feeling like she's somebody you know. It's like, I know her. I remember that one. Her dad.
Yeah, but she brings that. I get kind of get that sense from her out of character.
Yeah,
so I think that's.
Oh, Louise, she sells it. You need Louise. Yeah. You need a very strong actress to sell this script and to make it work. And Louise is that perfect person for that. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Anyone who's going along tonight, tomorrow night. Thoroughly recommend it, and you'll definitely enjoy it. You'll definitely enjoy it.
70 minutes is just a nice amount of time, isn't it? It's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
You can go out for a bevy or two afterwards, even, or something to eat. Did you go along last night?
It's too cold.
I know.
I listen. Do you know what?
I'm terrible.
This is what I always trying to be as honest as I can be. And that is just a perfectly honest answer.
Completely.
Sorry, Michael, it's just too cold.
I know.
And you know
that was the message. That was the message.
Exactly.
That's literally the message.
You know what? And people really appreciate frankness.
I agree. 100%.
Just tell me it's too cold.
I was at home, heat on, hot water bottle, watching TV. I was like, oh, I can't do it.
I'm a cold cretter myself.
And I went through the whole show and nobody leaned in any stage to whisper. Sort of relevant, sort of irrelevant.
Whisper?
You know, well, yeah. Nobody commented.
Does Fionnuala have a whisper in her armoury?
Nobody said something like, you know,
if I were whispering,
she's too old to be married to him. She's too old to be married to him, or she wouldn't wear that dress during a curfew. Does Casablanca comment?
Oh, I know.
There's always one comment.
So, Michael, highly recommending.
There's an awful lot of sex in Casablanca, or implied sex, considering the time frame that movie is set in.
I think they had sex back in the 1940s.
And also, on that subject, there's nothing really in your face, either literally or metaphorically, with Meet the Chippendales, but I wouldn't watch it with Fionnuala's granny either.
No, yeah, no.
Just to say, I meant to say that a little earlier on.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
I think it's an 18 plus, but you don't really see anything. But I think it is for that.
When you
audience.
mentioned like those pullouts in the newspaper, that mind boggles. Like I'm just like it's not for me.
You are in a weird mood.
Not for me.
Everything is.
Not for
I
me.
don't know. I'm worried.
I know. In fairness, the cold impacts him way different than it does me.
And most people. Okay, keep your texts and calls coming into us. 086 60 25,000. 086 60 25,000. Right. We binge watched The Traitors UK over 3 evenings this week. Thought it was fabulous. Is that the BBC show?
It is. I'm so jealous they've got the player.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, I didn't get to see it at all. I know. Where did they watch it? Ask them that if they watched it.
086 60 25,000.
If they watched
That's
it
how my mother used to speak if she didn't want anyone to understand her.
Like Pig Latin or something.
Put that back. We can't afford that. Mom, everyone can hear you. You're not speaking a different language. And she also didn't. I keep going to Yorkshire accents every time. I don't know what the story is.
Matt, did you get a book of accents or a tip for Christmas?
Coronation Street.
Okay.
Has the team seen The Pale Blue Eye on Netflix? I'd give it 8 out of 10. Vinnie McLaughlin in Manchester. Hiya, Vinnie. I watched the first 10 minutes of it. Thank you for reminding me. I want to go back and watch it. I like it. I like the setup of it. It is a young fella, dies in... he's in part of the army. And this is going back to the 19th, 18th century after a clue. They have horse and carts anyway. And this character whose name escapes me, I can't remember his name, it will come to me.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
Is called in to investigate it and discovers that it wasn't an accident until death, or the person didn't kill himself.
It looked too scary for me.
Yeah,
Is it scary?
I don't know. It wasn't scary as much as I'd seen, but it's the guy that played Batman is the lead character. Come on.
Christian Bale?
Christian Bale,
that's it, yeah.
Christian Bale. And it looks really good, and it looks like it's going to be an interesting story.
It does look like it was really dark, so I was like,
And this is a series?
Yeah, that's what put me off it.
Movie.
It's a movie, yeah. No, that's what put me off it was the horror, because I was like, oh, I don't know.
That's not your bag. No, it's not. No.
Yeah, the pale blue eye.
Hiya, Greg and team. Last week you mentioned The Patient, and I had been watching it, but not totally into it. Decided to watch another episode, but when the therapist had the chance to get away but didn't, I thought, going to end up like all the other victims. Should I watch the end now? Is there a happy outcome? Thanks, Greg. Always enjoy the chatter on a Friday. Well, firstly, I don't remember when he had the opportunity to escape. Secondly, the reason audiences don't like it is it's not necessarily a happy ending. Now you can look at it and say, right, I understand. The critics like it because I think they be a bit more dispassionate on it. It's not everything's not the story's tied up in a bow, but it's not necessarily the outcome that you might want. That doesn't give anything away because I don't know what you want. But watch it. I thought it was good, but it has mixed audience reviews. But I think it's worth finishing to the end, Vinny. Right, okay. Let us take a break. We're back with more from Michael and Fionnuala in just a couple of minutes.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Do you need to switch your current account or loan? We are now offering MyCU current account and debit MasterCard, bringing full banking features and competitive rate switcher loans.
There's never been a better time to go full Lidl. Let's hear it from our customers.
Step in the door at Lidl and do one shop. You will notice the difference in the pocket, and you will see the quality that you are getting in the food, and they'll never go back.
Yeah. It was true though. Go on. Go full Lidl today.
New this week in Home Store and More. All artificial plants are half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price artificial plants are gone, they're gone. Also, all rugs and all 100% cotton printed duvet sets are still half price. But when all the half price rugs and all the half price 100% cotton printed duvet sets are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More, or visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Sabrina Robb here from Donegal Hearing Clinic. If you're struggling to hear everyday conversations or find it difficult to understand people in a crowded room, you may have hearing loss. Problems like these are common, and we're used to helping people resolve them. We offer hearing assessments and will discuss your options. You can call us on 074 91 88 470 or visit donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
The Clanry Hotel presents Nathan Carter in concert this Friday 20th. Doors open at 7, show starts at 8 p.m. Tickets are €30 each and available from the hotel reception. That's Nathan Carter in concert this Friday night at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny.
There's a monster who lives down in the glen, as wide as a tree and as tall as 10 men. But he squished himself into a teeny old car any time he had to travel somewhere quite far. One day the engine exploded with a cough and a puff, and he finally cried, "Enough is enough. I'll ask the credit union for an electric car loan. I can apply online from the comfort of home." Monster loans from the credit union. Imagine more. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. If you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Credit unions in the Republic of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Okay, very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. It's That's Entertainment with Michael and Fionnuala, and we are going to talk now about, and it's funny, isn't it, Fionnuala, that you know, drama's almost now made in real time, isn't it? We're talking now about Vardy versus Rooney, but the case is barely closed and they've knocked out a drama off the back of it.
I couldn't believe it. Because when it first came up, I thought Channel 4 have started to do some kind of popular documentaries. You know, like they've always done some good stuff in it, but they've done some popular documentaries. They've got a massive big thing about the Kardashians, which someday I'll watch it, but I just haven't got the energy or the time to put into it now. And it's kind of, you know, just how they built their empire, etc., etc. So it's very kind of, you know, on on point, like as in what's going on in the world. But then I saw this, and what really attracted me to this is Michael Sheen was one of the producers, and he stars in it, and he's been deeply involved in it. So I'm kind of watching it just to try and figure out what was the attraction there. I mean, anybody who doesn't know the story, it is all about, it was in the papers all the way through. So you have Colleen Rooney and, I'm going to say Rachel Vardy, but I could be wrong, there is her first name, now that I think of it. But these are two...
Rebecca,
there you go. These are two wives of professional footballers in the UK, and they were supposedly friends, following each other on their social media channels, and then all of a sudden then out what was for the public out of the blue, Colleen Rooney put down on her social media that she had just figured out that somebody was using her private social media and selling stories to the press from it, and that she had done a whole big personal investigation herself, where she had blocked people and then let them in and blocked all the things.
She posted a post, didn't she, that only Rebecca Vardy could see, because she suspected it was her that was leaking her information to the press.
She did it
now,
for
this was stuff that was being published actually on a public platform, which I don't get.
Oh, I don't know. It's the whole way through this, and I keep thinking it's her that this was her private stuff.
But it's still Instagram.
Friends. Well, I mean, and I'm sure her friends aren't numerous, and this Rebecca Vardy isn't really her friend anyways. They don't seem to have been friends prior to this, but it just seemed to be like all the wags. I, of course, was around in the time when the wags first came to realisation, and you were kind of like watching them do you remember that one particular World Cup when Posh Spice was there, and there was Abby something or other was another guys, there was loads of them, and they were all
Crouch.
They were all just dressed to the nines.
I don't know anything
running
except about the names
wags.
of wags.
It's your specialised mastermind
subject. Peter Crouch Abbey, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a load of them, but they all kind of came up, and they went and they used to be a big thing. They probably still are now, apparently, the way things are going. But when Rooney did this anyways, she went and she put it out. No, she named and shamed then who she said was selling the stories.
It was Vardy, or it was Rebecca, that famous post.
It was Rebecca. So she sent it out that it was Rebecca. Of course, Rebecca Vardy went, oh my God, I can't have people saying this about me. And she took the case to court and sued her. It cost millions. To be honest, that was the main thing that came out of it for me. This crap cost millions. Millions for these two women to really kind of have, and I apologise for the thing, but like a bitch fight with each other. Like, it was just ridiculous. Like,
phones go missing, evidence goes missing.
Phones go missing, evidence goes missing. One of the main witnesses was unable, which always works out well for me, was unable to attend due to the severe stress this had caused on her health and her mental health. But fair play to her. She rallied 6 weeks after the court case ended and was able to do a load of interviews and let people know that she's writing her own book. So I love that strength. She really showed her own. She really came through with her strength.
We get to go on that journey with her.
Exactly. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff in it. You know the ways you just wonder.
And because it's very fresh, because we were talking earlier on about the Chippendales, and the reason that's enjoyable because you don't really know the story. A lot of people do know this story, and I think people are interested in how it's told. So it can work both ways, can't it?
Yeah, look, it's very well acted. Michael Sheen plays one of the barristers in it. It's all kind of set in the court, and it kind of goes back and forth then to their homes or their different things. It gives you sort of an insight into what was going on in the court when it goes on. If you're interested in this kind of thing, you're going to love this. If you like that kind of story and you are following it, you're absolutely going to love it. But it just was, to me, meanwhile, their husbands are still playing against each other on different teams and stuff, and have to be seen to be, at least cordial when they're out and about. And again, I stress, it cost millions.
Yeah. And Vardy's the one picked up the bill for that. And Jamie, I think her husband's name is. So the subject matter and the fact that it's real and the personalities and you know the ins and outs of it, but what would you actually give the production, the actual show? Let's say it was a fictional piece. What would you give, or if it were factual, which it is, what would you give it out of 10?
I think they did a good. I think they did a good job of it. And as I said, if you were watching this, and because to be honest, occasionally you're watching it going, this can't possibly be real, even though you know in your heart that it is. But if you were watching this as somebody had sitting down and written a drama, you go, oh, this isn't bad. I would definitely give it like a 6 or whatever.
And I presume it's on
well
the 4-player too.
It's on the 4. It is on the 4-player, which and I have to say, I've always been one that was talking about how brilliant Channel 4 was because they had this all 4-player, and you could get in and out of it, and there's no charge.
What?
They are ruining it.
Why?
They have clumped so many ads into it now.
Oh no! Right, okay.
Yeah, and it's so
and in fairness,
because they want you.
It was successful.
They want you to subscribe to it because they want you to subscribe, and I'm like, it's just
24 Hours in Police Custody is a great show on it as well. If you don't want to watch something that you have to commit too much to, there's a good amount of episodes on that.
They have a couple of good things that they have going for it. They have a couple of good shows that they've made themselves, and in fairness, if you like any of the. If you're somebody that likes the reality TV, they have reality TV about everything.
Do you think the likes of ITVX and Channel 4, and we don't have anything in here at the moment, so we have to look to that. I wonder what the subscriber numbers are like, because, in terms of the quality of it, look, there'll be a couple of good dramas here or there, right? And you can catch up on bits and bobs. But, when people are sort of looking at how much they're committing monthly to on-demand TV, I just wonder... Even with a population of 68 plus in England, I wonder, is there enough interest to support subscription for regular telly? Really, it's what it is.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Channel 4 now, because, like I said, it was an unbelievable. Like, we were comparing it here 2 years ago to the RTE player, which was buffering, which was still, and you were saying, oh God, why don't they just copy the Channel 4 model? Because the All 4 thing was so good. You could just click on anything that they had and it just came straight away. And they also have some of the movies that are on Film 4 and stuff like that in it. Now they've introduced all these ads. Now they're looking for you to subscribe to it. As you say, it was extremely popular. It'll be interesting to see whether they end up with a fall off or whether people transfer
I think
over.
there is an industry accepted shedding of traffic. In terms of those who will watch with ads, those who will pay a subscription to watch without ads, and then those that just go, stuff it, I'm going to get a Fire Stick, or I'm not going to bother watching it, or it's not worth it. So there is an expected shedding when you switch to the subscription model. But sure, we shall see. Right, the rig is actually quite a few people interested in the rig. Yeah, we're going to talk about that after the break. Is that all right, Michael?
Absolutely.
Have you watched it?
Yeah.
How much of it?
Halfway
through. 1 episode?
8 episodes.
Okay, back after these.
The best music on your station. Highland Radio.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in the community. Keeping up to date with your recommended vaccines will make sure you have the best possible protection from serious illness. And everyone aged 18 to 49 can now get a second COVID-19 booster vaccine from a HSC vaccination centre or a participating GP or pharmacy. See what vaccines are recommended for you on hsc.ie or call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSC.
Donegal Denture Clinic, Letterkenny. Denture problems? We can help. At Donegal Denture Clinic, we customise, personalise and tailor your dentures to suit you. Call us for a free consultation on 91 25 25 3. Find us at Ballyrain, Letterkenny, beside Rossin College. Medical cards welcome. For all your denture needs, call Donegal Denture Clinic on 91 25 25 3. Online at donegaldentureclinic.ie.
At Centra this week we have great offers like Centra Fresh Hours chicken breast fillet 680 gram only $6.99. Centra Soup 400 gram selected range any 2 for $3.50, and Casillero Del Diablo Cabernet Sauvignon only €10. Smart choices, choose Centra. Centra, live every day. Enjoy, call sensibly.
Not to be missed, Springsteen, a tribute comes to the Villa Rose Hotel Ballybuffet on January the 27th and on Kirch Hotel Gidor, January the 28th. Tickets €20, available online at Eventbrite or from hotel reception.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
All right, I think most of us will be glad to see the back of the snow. That's going to happen over the course of today, primarily the weekend. But a mostly dry day today with sunny spells developing, though cloud will increase by evening, remaining chilly in the north with highest temperatures of 3 to 5 degrees in light south-east breezes. Not sure if that's warm enough to get your cars back up the drive, but we shall see. Right, the rig is being heavily marketed by Amazon. Everywhere I look, it is there. People seem to enjoy the start of it, but if you look at the average audience score, most people don't like it. Even the critics probably don't see enough in it to go, oh yes, this is great. You're halfway through. It's on Amazon, by the way. You're halfway through. What say you?
Yeah, I've been following on social media, on Twitter, and it's 43% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which isn't very good. Like, that's 2 out of 5 people liking it. That's not good. Critics are a bit better with 64%. Following it on Twitter, a lot of negative feedback, a lot of people unhappy with the ending, and socially as well, just friends of mine that have finished it are like, yeah, the ending is a bit of a letdown. I'm sticking with it. The person who messaged in earlier said they weren't too sure. I'm going to stick with it, but I'm not greatly enthused. I like it, but I'm prepared to be disappointed. I like the casting a lot. It's a Scottish production. It's an all-Scottish production, and there's a bit of buzz around the fact that it's the first time that there's been something like that on the Amazon platform. So it's great for local Scottish productions that they've got this thing together. It's got a stellar cast: Ian Glenn, Owen Teal, people you will recognise from stuff like Game of Thrones and other BBC/ITV productions.
It's a small pool, isn't it?
Yeah,
that
it is.
Producers seem to trust.
Yes, and they're all very, very good. The story is very straightforward, and it might have worked better as a feature film. It's one of those 6-hour miniseries that probably worked better.
The rig is about 3 episodes too long, say Sen in St Johnston.
Yeah,
thanks, Sen.
Completely agree. So basically, it's an oil rig. It's out in the middle of nowhere, as you can imagine. They get cut off.
You wouldn't want an oil rig in the middle of Glasgow.
You wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. So a fog or smoke.
What's that, Lou, in Glasgow?
Not a lot of Yorkshire people living in Glasgow.
There's a lot of Yorkshire people in this Scottish production. So a cloud comes in. It's like a mixture of fog and it's like ash, cuts them off. There's like... they can get no communication out on radio.
Helicopters can't fly.
Helicopters can't fly.
Cool.
They're completely cut off.
Good way to isolate them.
They're completely cut off, and supernatural things start to happen. So a guy is injured in the first episode, badly injured. He's in critical condition, but he mysteriously starts to heal. He sits up, starts walking around, starts prophesizing that a big wave is coming, and he's actually physically changing. Something's happening. We find out what's happening at the end of episode 2, and it's generally my problem with the early episodes is that at the end of, say, episode 2, the characters are no further forward than they were at the end of episode 1. At the end of, like, it's
so
a lot
pacing, then
it's a lot of people walking around the oil rig saying, what the heck's going on? I wonder what's happening, for an hour.
Yeah.
It looks well visually. You know, it
sounds
good.
like a brilliant premise. It sounds
great
like
premise,
the setup is like, wow, okay.
Yeah, you want to like it. I want to like it, and I like Ian Glenn a lot. He also did the Jack Taylor Private Eye Detective Galway-based show. He's a great actor. They're all fantastic actors. I love Owen Teal, and he's sort of the toxic member of the crew. He's the one who is shouting at the bosses about, get us all off here. You know, you should be working to get us all off here. He gets some great scenes. They all get some great scenes. But as I talked, when I was talking about Jimmy's winning matches, how much I love story, I feel like in each individual episode of The Rig, there's not a huge amount of story. Like, nothing. I sit down and I watch it, but by the end of it, I'm like, well, we're no further forward.
This sounds very familiar to the review of that show where those people running up and down corridors or something.
Oh, Crossfire. Yeah, Crossfire.
Sounds similar.
Crossfire was because
and the one about the submarine.
Yeah.
They were saying,
Vigil was great. Vigil was fantastic.
So, but have you seen any of this?
No, it screams everything Fionnuala does not want to
know about. Like Supernatural, not interested.
It's out in the North Sea.
Out in the North Sea, not interested. Dark. Don't like. I might know like visually dark.
Visually,
I just find that a pain in the bum.
Like even when they're in the club area where they're all kind of chilling, supposedly, because it's all glass windows, you can see the ominous smoke, and you're watching it to see is there something flitting by. Fionnuala would hate that. Fionnuala would hate it.
No,
but it doesn't pay off much. I mean, I'll stick with it because of the cast. But I'm prepared based on everything I've seen on Twitter and those people that have commented in there about sticking with it. You know, somebody messaged earlier, should they stick with it? I haven't seen the ending, so I can't speak authoritatively, but I would still, I don't know, I'm stubborn. It's very, I mean, I watched The Midnight Club all the way to the end, and that was atrocious. Not quite as bad as Crossfire. I did on my blog.
Look at the time. Right, okay. We're fine for time yet, so we can't ask you for marks out of 10 yet.
Well, no, I can give it like a 6 or a 7 at the halfway stage, but I'm aware of the fact that people universally seem disappointed by the ending.
Well, universally, definitely those who've contacted us.
Yeah, and on Twitter as well. Twitter, I mean, I see, I go down, I don't care about spoilers, but you know, a lot of people, well,
you know, you're not going to go on Twitter to say something good, are you?
There is a percentage that will say good things, but you're right, it's overwhelmingly negative. But it's
Traitors US starts on the BBC on the 25th of January. This is from Kevin. Set in the same castle with ex-Bond villain and Scotchman Alan Cumming. And he also says he watched a few episodes of The Rig. Looks promising, similar to John Carpenter's The Fog, with an impressive cast.
That was so scary.
But too cold to watch The Chippendales. Reminds me to get a few clothes to clean the windows, right? Okay, put them on though. Don't use them as rags. All right. Sinead, anyone watch Red Notice? I watched that, I think I enjoyed that. Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. Very disappointing, not reflective I've heard live. I think a few people thought there was problems with that as well because Bobby Brown's still alive and maybe they couldn't cover it in a way that they might. Okay, that is Fionnuala, thank you so very much.
You're very welcome.
Great to have you in as always, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you for walking up in the snow and ice like a ballerina.
Dance moves.
We really appreciate you listening to the show, watching the show, getting involved in the programme. We're back on Monday. We'll follow up, by the way, with all your views and comments following our interview with Minister McConnell Logan, that and so much more besides. Have a great weekend. Stay tuned. John Breslin is out and about around the Northwest after the news at 12.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Bill.